Hey, Danny, great to see you, my friend. It's time for the Danny Kadota Show again here at the Friedman Adventures YouTube studio at 22nd Street Landing. How are you?
Oh, great, Phil. I want to yell hook up.
Go
That's the old
ahead.
deal that we used to do at
Do
Pete and
it.
Marty's deal.
I
But
say go
no,
for
no,
it.
it's good. Yeah. Hook up! All right, let's
Woo! I'm all
get the
for
baits
it.
in the water, guys. We'll get it all cranked up, ready for questions. There's some things that I have on my agenda that I want to interject as we go, but I mean, I already see some great questions up
Yeah,
there.
you want me to
and we'll take
start?
it. Yeah, let's just start it.
You know what? Let's just
'Cause, I
jump
mean,
into the
yeah.
questions, and then we've got a lot to talk about, including the
Awesome.
Freedom with 150 Dorado today.
Oh, my God.
The
Yeah.
San Diego boats are all limiting out. There's more yellowfin tuna. We still think there might be some albacore.
I think we may see like I said, it was late in the season of '84 when those big fish, and I'm talking about those, 60 to 75-pound fish or 76-pound fish in that range. There were a couple of them caught that size. That was late in the fall. So, you never know. And I can tell you with the amount of, and the biomass of anchovy in our waters, I think there is always an opportunity,
I'm with you. All right, hit that like button, everybody. Don't let Danny break into tears tonight. He wants to see
Yeah,
lots of
please.
likes. Tommy Tarr, I think, has an excellent question. How important is the landing to the success or failure of a sport boat running trips out of that landing? How important is that?
Tommy, that is an excellent question. It's crucial, timing, answering of all your questions that you need, getting you the information to prep for your trip properly. On some of these, in these years, it's very tough. It's not like albacore where you need a 20-pound stick, a 40-pound stick, and then maybe a troller or something. It gets pretty involved because of the diversity of the fishing. And we're talking about Dorado. So you're going to need probably lighter line, looking at a range of fish from smaller to some nice ones. And they are the fastest growing fish out there too, folks. They got it's a short lifespan, but they grow very fast. Great eating, great table fare. Once they hit American waters, the limit shoots to 10 instead of 2 from down in Mexico. But the landing, get back to landings. The landings will counsel you and all that. They're going to tell you. Now, if you're out of San Diego, they will tell you whether you're going to fish in U.S. waters or Mexican waters, and whether you need the particular permits for Mexico, if that's where you're going to be fishing. Obviously, if we can get them in U.S. waters, it stands to benefit you by not having to, have the permit. Your California license will hold up. It's perfect for that, and you'll be good. But yeah, that information that you get from them, even from parking, your fish processing, things like that, I count and depend on our landings to give you the information on. And they're all very good. They're all very good on that. But stay in contact with them. If your questions aren't answered, call us here. We'll get them answered for you.
Absolutely.
But it is that's an excellent question. The landings is crucial for them. Landings, we're involved with H&M. As a family, we've been partners in the landing since 1984. And I got to tell you, it's very important to make sure that our consumers are taken care of, that you're up to date on the knowledge. It's for you to stay up on it as far as, the fishing changes day to day. And he who does his homework and does his due diligence as far as tackle and understanding what the changes are, will be more successful. Now, it's tough. Right now, like we're talking about, it's a wide open Dorado bite. Generally speaking, lighter line, and then which means a 20-pound line, probably a 30 or 30. You could jump to 40 maybe, because when they chew, they're not real finicky about it. They're also, like I said, one of the fastest growing fish. Excellent table fare, and they grow fast. They're growing as they're coming up, So, and then have a heavier rod, because there's still a tremendous amount of tuna around. Be prepared. You don't want to get caught with your pants down without a heavy outfit too. If the tuna, you get into a school of bluefin and they're eating the flat balls on 80 and 100 pounds. So be prepared for it. But if you're in contact with the landings, they will give you up-to-date information. I know, like at H&M, we have a number of guys that have been in that office and they have more experience than anybody I know. The guys like Danny Wade and guys that have been there from the time we were kids. So you're talking over 50 years or more, and that's tremendous experience over time too. So you call them and you can talk to them and they'll give you the straight scoop on everything that's going on that you'll need to have to take down there.
Danny, I'll tell you, one of the big reasons I started 9762, I was working in the Redondo Sport Fishing Ticket Office. We would have 2 employees in there. We'd have 300 people going on the night barge. We'd have the half-day boats, the full day, all these guys coming in. So you would literally answer the phone, and I watched the guys, and it's changed a lot since then, but they, Redondo Sport Fishing, not, hi, thanks for going, like, you're angry.
Right.
Redondo Sport Fishing, well, yeah, 2 yellowtail, yeah, no, yeah, bonita, yeah, boom, and hang up, and I go, wait a minute, there's a market here for a presentation
Absolutely.
that's courteous and informative, and that's really what did it. So, I mean, you talk about all the crossing the T's and dotting the I's, that's all really important, but then you got to treat your customers with dignity and respect, and
absolutely.
And sometimes it's hard to do when you're juggling 1,500 balls. But I know exactly what you're talking about.
You get overwhelmed. We've been blessed in the fact that H&M's been in business since 1935. So as far as being able to dial in the operation, getting everything from long range to overnight trips to half-day trips dialed in, they've got it. And you got the experienced guys like Ricky and Danny Wade, those guys in the office that they've been there as long as that too, as long as I've been around. And so you're going to get some unbelievable detailed information on what you need, what's going on down there, the whole scoop. So
Rick Slater is questioning my mathematical abilities. And let me tell you something, Rick, right now. You nailed it, man. I'm awful at math. In fact, some of those kids in China would come up to me with these equations that look like hieroglyphics to me. I didn't even know. They go, teacher, how long did it take you to do this? And I said, 12 years. I don't even know what that is. So Rick's right. He wants to know how long Dorados live. Phil needs a lesson on that. How about 10 pounds per year they grow? Help them with the math.
They have a very short
2 to 4 years, right?
Yeah, I think 4 years is.
Morrison was saying 8 years.
They get big. Well, it could be
maybe, but I think the average is like that 2 to 4.
They grow extremely fast.
Yeah, because think about it. If it's a 4-year-old Dorado and it's 70 pounds or something, that's a big flathead.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
All
right, Rick, thanks a lot for pointing out that I'm terrible at math. Travis Bright says, hopefully, Travis, you're reading my mind. There's copious amounts of kelp patties for the Apollo trip. We're going Friday or Thursday night on the Apollo out of Seaforth. Man, I think we planned this just right.
Oh, you're going to get them. And you're right there. I mean, from there, as you go to the west, you got almost everything you can think of in that lineup that you could target. There's a mix in the, not only the Dorado, but yellowtail under the kelps. I can see that developing even more as time goes.
Yeah.
And then you're shot at the tuna.
Absolutely.
Both yellowfin and bluefin, so who knows.
Absolutely. Jeff Yeomans from the 540 Slingers Club just had a really great trip on the Freedom where they had, I think, almost 70 big Cortez Bank yellowtail eating the surface iron.
God,
Jeff's a Navy guy, so we thank him for his service.
Awesome.
I believe Jeff's going to come down on Sunday morning. I'm doing a walk with Phil thing at 9 a.m. Danny, you better be here. We're going to go for a walk for an hour. And for those of you who don't want to do the walk, you can come back at 10, and have a cup of coffee.
All right.
I know Danny and I will toast you to that. Jeff says, good evening, Danny. He just wanted to say hi. David Rosenthal says, good evening, gentlemen. Do you mind if I show David's product here real quick?
No,
all right.
for it.
Let's
go.
Let's see how that looks. That is David Rosenthal's pliers, and they are fantastic. And I hope you can see, maybe you can't see that.
Oh, it's angled.
Yeah, I'm going up and down, right? Those are his new pliers. They're absolutely fantastic. And for more information, www.angler, not plural, anglerpliers.com. David, appreciate you joining us, my friend. Always good to see you here. Albert Ponce says, good evening, Phil and Friedman Adventure family. I think Albert's going to be down here on Sunday also from the great state of Montana. PNS Harnjack got to get out and fish the mighty Missouri River today in Montana. Have you ever fished that?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
It sounds like fun, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
I love all that fishing. I mean, we got to be blessed to fish the green and stuff like. I mean, it was one of my old crew members, Kohei, and we went down and fished, just below Flaming Gorge there, and the type of fishing that you guys are spoiled. It was crazy. I mean, and Kohei and we're too nuts anyway. We never stopped fishing. We ended up with over a couple hundred trout. It was
Wow.
really funny. And I was very blessed. I have a cousin that he's one of the top guides in the country. In fact, he guided President Carter and Rawson, his wife. With the helicopters, the snipers on the hilltops, the whole deal. But Stu was consulting me on this particular deal, our first time on the green, and I'm going to tell you guys. Here's your secret, guys. Save you some money from a guide trip. They're probably going to kill me for losing guide business, but it's pretty simple. You go down below the dam. Before the boats start launching early in the morning, we were fishing midges right at the launch ramp, and blue wing olives and stuff like that. And they got so wide open, it's ridiculous. I couldn't see it, so I was taking a yellow stimulator as a strike indicator, putting it up the line. They started eating the stimulator. So, I mean, that's pretty ridiculous fishing, right? Now, as the boats start coming down, probably 8:30, 9 o'clock, as they launch with their drift boats, you go up toward the dam, and we double nymped, And once again,
If somebody doesn't know what that means, double nip.
it's a wet fly.
Yeah.
So you're fishing subsurface. We're using a double, so there's two nymphs. You use the strike indicator to watch. You're watching your indicator. When the indicator goes down, bingo, you're on. But I mean, it's silly fishing. These fish are so tame that they're used to getting released that it's, I call it stupid fishing. I mean, no other word for it, And it was so bad that I'm pushing my strike indicator. When you're fighting a fish, a lot of times will slide down, and I'm pushing it back up like this, and my flies are, the two wet flies, the nymphs are in the water, and I'm pushing it up, and all of a sudden it goes, and you go, this is ridiculous, They're right there,
Yeah.
And we never stopped, except for about maybe 10, 15 minutes to just woof down a sandwich, and we fished from sunup to sundown. And we don't even know how many fish we had. But I got to think easily a couple hundred.
Wow.
I've never seen it like that. And then once all the boats were launched, then you fished down below the launch ramp. But, I mean, it was silly fishing. I mean, to me and to Kohei, And it's funny because we barely made it back to the lodge. It was dark. It was probably about 9 o'clock. We got back to make the last call for dinner. And we're listening to these guys that went on these guided trip boats, guided trips on the boats that doing the floats down, and they go, oh yeah, we had a great day. We caught 6 fish and stuff like that. And Kohei and I looked at each other and go, he say 6? He goes, yeah, 6. Yeah. I think it took us, 6 casts to do that. So, it was, so that's, Flaming Gorge and fishing just below there on the Green River. Unbelievable. Do-it-yourself trip, non-guided, and you guys will have, a great time. Just come prepared with both a nymph, a setup and a dry. So.
Hey, hit that like button, everybody. Don't forget to join us on the morning briefing. Tomorrow morning we'll be on the air. Also, we are going to be on board the Independence October 20th out of beautiful Point Loma Sport Fishing in San Diego. You can go to independencesportfishing.com and sign up for that October 20th Friedman Adventures 5-day trip. All right, Isaac's with us. I actually talked to him a little bit about this today, Danny. I think you'll have more expertise than yours truly. He says, can you help explain international waters? Or really what he's after is he's got some people on board his charter, and they're telling him you don't need a passport because they're offshore. And a couple of the passengers are going, wait a minute. Then why do we need Mexican permits? We don't want to pay for Mexican permits. You can explain.
Yeah, what you do is, in the end, the operators are going to be the ones really liable for that because they're the ones taking you to the destination. So beforehand, you check with them. They will let you know if you need a permit. If you're fishing the Coronados, and if that's the bite If that's where the bite's at, they're definitely
You're
going
going to
on.
need a passport.
You're going to need a passport. You're going to need permits. They have to give you plenty of time to prepare for that because at last minute they can't cancel the trip, in preparation if they're biting there because somebody doesn't have a permit. So, it's going to take some preparation ahead of time, some homework.
Yeah.
But, as far as I know now, the advantage to fishing in U.S. waters, to be honest with you right now, is particularly with a Dorado bite. In Mexico, the limit on Dorado is dos, folks. This many in the U.S. So
Yeah, 10.
what bag would you rather have, folks?
Right.
Okay, so think about that. Okay, so they will probably opt to fish U.S. waters. Number one, you don't have to encumber the cost of a Mexican permit, and two, your limits substantially increased. And when they're biting, you get the right patties. You're good. You're golden.
So, yeah, Isaac, I think also what's going on is your guys are feeling like they're getting ripped off, but here is the reality. Number one, you need a passport when you're within 12 miles of the Mexican coast. That includes islands. So if you're offshore, you don't need a passport. However, you're still in Mexican waters, and you do need to have a Mexican permit. And what Danny is saying is absolutely right about U.S. waters and you get more fish. But just think about this, okay? Let's say your guy says, okay, no Mexican permits on this trip. And you're 3 miles into U.S. waters and you get a call from a boat 4 miles into Mexican waters in a wide open yellowfin tuna bite that wants to pass you the bite because he's done, he's limited out. And then you got to look at everybody and say, well, we can't do that because we don't have Mexican permits. So, yeah, it costs a few more bucks, but better safe than sorry if something like that were to pop its head up.
And you got to leave that to the skippers.
Yeah.
They know where they're going to be fishing the next day. They got all the dope from the other captains, on the way in and at the dock. It's constantly going on. So they will keep it updated. They're not going to drain you of Mexican permit money if you don't need to. And particularly because the limits are increased once you're in U.S. waters. They'll probably opt to fish that edge if possible, so you don't have to encumber that cost of a Mexican permit. But in the event, like Phil says, if that's where it's at, then it's worth coughing it up to get into the bite area.
Perfect. Isaac, great question. Ahmad says, great to see you, Captain Danny. Ahmad is such a great supporter of ours, Danny. Always good to see you here. He says, thank you, Frank. Great show as usual. All right, PNS Hornjack, back to that bite in Montana. He says, copious amounts of trout surfacing today. Felt like trout foamers on the river. Even the bald eagles were dive bombing and picking trout off. Brown spotted Mep lures were the hot ticket. Sounds like a great bite for sure.
You can't. I mean, like I said, we did probably a couple hundred fish on the fly. So that to me, and only because Kohei and I are crazy, we took maybe 10 minutes to inhale a sandwich and drink something down, and we fished from sun up to sundown. And at that time and at that latitude, the sun's up late. We're nuts. We're crazy anyway. But I mean, yeah.
I love it, man. We got a Montana fish report courtesy of the Hornjack family. What do you think?
Awesome.
That's good stuff. All right. Andrew Hushino, Danny Wade coached me on how to throw the iron and how to properly bounce fish on the San Diego. He's a great man.
Let me tell you something. There is nobody better than Danny Wade when it comes to iron. He's the man. He's one of the guys, and you'll see Danny, if he's not on the boat, you'll see him in the tackle shop at H&M. He's an icon. He and Ricky. I mean, we've got some of the best. They've been in the business. All the tackle shops down there at the landings are all very well versed. But Danny and Ricky and those guys are pretty much my age. They've been around from the time I was around that time. So the amount of experience and knowledge that those guys have, unbelievable. That's worth its weight in gold right there, folks.
Absolutely. Okay. David Rosenthal says, thank you so much, Phil, for showing those great pliers. David, au contraire, thank you for not only producing such a great product, but also every time we start sending clothing and food and other items to Mexico, you're always right there. You're a very giving, great person. Thank you for sure. David, Alcantar just sat down for dinner, excited for pizza and a good show. Are you hungry tonight, Danny? Do we need to con somebody into sending us some food? I'm pretty good myself, but
yeah.
if somebody could send down a prime
Oh,
rib,
my
I'd
God.
be,
Yeah. Oh,
it's
that's
got to
right.
be cooked though. Yeah.
He's on a carnivore diet, folks. Yeah.
Not exactly, shall we say, in today's day and age, eating animals is, some people think that's a bad thing, but I'm all about it.
Yeah, it's been
Eat
around
more
forever.
steak. All right, let's see. Jeff Yeomans, I definitely will see you Sunday, going to try to drag Brian Wynn along with me. Hey, I talked to Brian just a moment ago. We got some exciting stuff coming up here soon, Jeff. Hopefully you can get him to come down too. That would be absolutely great. Noel is in Guam. And let's see, Hava,
Wow.
let's see if from Guam. And Danny, I think he's just saying, I don't speak that language, but you can just tell he's a great guy and a nice guy. And Noel, thank you. Guam.
Back to Guam.
Man,
Awesome.
how do you like that?
Cool.
I bet there's some darn good fishing in Guam.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Huh?
You know who to talk to? Who probably would know is Yatomi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Steve,
Steve
right?
knows all this
We got to
stuff.
get Steve in here again.
Oh yeah. Well, he's down in Brazil right now, I think.
Is he? I thought he was back. He's not back yet?
I think he's still down there.
Danny, it's
It's-
your
it's
call. Are we going
really-
to interview him up here in the office or go to Rosarito?
Yeah. Oh, either way. Either way with I call him Zatoichi. The blind swordsman. He's
I love it. Hey, Isaac just sent us a $20 bill, Danny. That's how much he loves
All
the
right.
show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isaac.
Isaac.
That means the world to Danny, and I thank you very, very much. Hit that like button, everybody. I think it's Greg Bates. Hi, Danny and Phil. Do you have any information why the fishing barges disappeared? I think it was an insurance issue. It became too difficult to insure, but am I right or wrong?
I'm sure
That played
that's
into
what
it?
it was. 'Cause I can remember in Redondo, we used to literally, they would barge hop. And what was the name of that boat? It would shuttle you from one barge to the next, but you paid a fee.
Was it the Voyager?
It might have been the
Up in
Voyager.
Redondo?
Yeah, up in Redondo, yeah.
I think it was.
And we used to go up and, yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun. A lot of barracuda, all kinds of
my
stuff.
God,
You
fishing
never
was
know.
great.
Halibut occasionally, yeah.
Then they had the all-night barge.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
fun.
Yeah, but I guess I can imagine being that operation. In time it was very tough to upkeep it and everything else, and to get help.
Yeah, Eddie Leland spent a lot of time on those barges
wow.
working, man, and
it's
he
amazing.
tells some stories that
Oh,
are
I can-
absolutely amazing. Catching from bluefin tuna to white sea bass to big halibut to bonita, bluefin tuna.
Unbelievable! That
Right?
bay is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
has a lot of history.
I can't believe no one's caught a bluefin in the bay. With all this bluefin spread everywhere, there's
mean,
got to be one in that
I got
canyon.
one right outside the pier.
Yeah.
My
Back in the
grandpa
day,
tells me
right?
in the 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got them off the pier.
Yeah.
But I mean, I got one in high school. And it was in a red tide. And they said,
Oh,
take
my
a
God,
sinker,
really?
Put the chovy below. And I'm looking at the red tide. I'm going, get out of here.
Nothing's got to bite.
We put it down with light line, number 6 hook, and get a bluefin.
That's awesome.
Unbelievable.
That is
In
so
red tide.
cool.
But the water was clean underneath, but it had the red tide on the surface. But I mean, that was a first for me too.
Wow, that was so much fun
First
catching
and last so
bluefin.
far, yeah.
Yeah.
On a red tide bluefin.
And people don't realize you're not kidding around when you're saying a number 6 hook. Sometimes it was a number 8 hook or a 10 hook.
No, we were
On
ready.
12 pound, right?
On 12. I had a 12 and a 15-pound outfit.
Yeah, Greg, I think that's what it was. Although I'm just thinking out loud, why were the barges more dangerous than anything else?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Dan
Hey.
Smith says, hello, Captain Danny, Phil, and all you super
Good.
fishing folks at the Friedman Adventures family. Great to see all of you. Danny, have you been fishing? Looks like you've been in the sun looking sharp.
I have been in the sun, but I'm at San Pedro High, and we're trying to get this fishing club started. So that's on the menu, and then we're also going to try to implement a mariner school. They do have one down here at the Port of LA, but I see a need for our industry, for all of our landings up and down the coast. To have kids that are really fired up on fishing, but have them channel them into our industry, because we're going to need that, folks. We're going to need that. That's a big part of it. I've talked to my brother and some of the guys at the landings where a lot of these boats have lost trips because they haven't had second tickets.
Whoa.
And so that's very
Ouch.
costly, and it puts the consumers out that are excited about going, and you have to stop a trip because you don't have your second ticket on the boat.
That's bad.
You know, but I work on that, and I hope we can get that implemented too.
Excellent. That sounds good. Dan, give Kim a big hug for me. It's great to see you guys here. Maybe we can do lunch or something on Thursday when I'm down in San Diego. That would be good. Next Thursday. Noel says California, he's in Guam, is the hot spot right now to fish. Man, California is pretty darn good right now.
We've got a lot of different things going on.
Yeah, tremendous.
Yeah.
Isaac says, thank you guys. Rick Slater, both of you, the biggest calico bass you've ever caught. Go ahead, Danny.
You know, the biggest one, I don't think we weighed it. But I could tell you, you know, we had one day on the backside of Catalina, and we had a group, and it was in December. I remember that. And it was late, and we stayed. And I remember Conklin was fishing over by Cathead, and we were just to the east of him. And we got a late bite going. And turned out that we got a white sea bass bite going. It was one of those days where in the morning we'd scratch, jigging squid, and right at sunup almost, the stuff floated, so we were able to tank up the squid. Slow picking all day, but quality fish, and we were catching some nice calicos and everything. And this sea bass bite that we went into, that was a WFO sea bass bite, if you threw in toward the rocks instead of outside on the outside edge, you get a big calico. Not knowing, you know, of course, everybody back then, sea bass were not easy to come by. You didn't have those kind of bites, so that was the deal. Everybody's focused on sea bass. You know, they get a big calico, throw it on, bounce it on the boat, and they go, oh, dang it, you know, and they put it in the sack. Well, we had, I think, 6 of them that, you know, the guys had on the boat, and we had no idea. We got back to the land now, ran up to Tommy's, the San Pedro Fish Market. I took one of the fish that was gilled and gutted. It's 12.6.
Oh my God.
Gilled and gutted.
Wow.
So I have no idea what some of our
That had to be
fish
like
went.
14.
Yeah, I would think so. You know, so actually it's the very best bite we had because it was overshadowed by the white sea bass. We didn't weigh a lot of them, but I know that there were 6 of them that were easily over 10. I've never seen anything like that, and I don't think we've ever had a bite like that again.
So mine, I'm going to say, I'm just guessing, say like 8 pounds probably, maybe down around San Quintin, fishing San Martin Island back in the day. I will tell you a story, though, about my younger brother, Paul, my only brother, Paul. So we were down there in San Quintin, and he was out with a guy named Bob Alvarez, and they were just throwing iron. They had no bait, and they were catching bass full speed out there. He got one that was 12.5 pounds, so a nice one. And he was with Bob. I forget why I wasn't with him at that time. I was off somewhere else. And I went down to see where they are, and I'm looking around. San Quintin wasn't that big in those times. And they're kind of in one of a dancing bar kind of a thing. And they're out in front of the bar, and they got their ice chest. I think they went back there. I don't even know. Anyway, my brother is handing this calico bass to one of the girls that he's got the hots for, I'm guessing. And I'm going, hey, don't do that. Give her a yellowtail. Don't give her that. That calico, that looks like a record to me. And so I talked him into it. We brought it back. He had it mounted and everything, and gave this girl a yellowtail, which was bigger anyway. So it was funny. 12.5 pounds, though. And that was, you know, weighed after it, you know, dried out and everything else. So I think that's
Mexico was good for them. You know, before they closed Cedros and you know, all those places down there, like you say, San Quintin and down the inside there was tremendous calico fishing. And
my
like
God.
I said, we didn't, on a lot of that stuff, we didn't even weigh it, so it's hard to tell. I know they were nice fish. Yeah.
All right. Isaac wants us to pull out our magic ball. I think he means our crystal ball, but our magic ball might work. I'm leaving Sunday night on a day-and-a-half trip. Looks like the weather is coming up. Thoughts on the weather for Monday? I'm afraid you have Danny and I at a disadvantage because I haven't looked at the weather for them.
Neither have I.
If you told me what,
stay on it.
Yeah, is it going to be 20 knots or 25? You know, if it's like 15 to 20, that's okay. That's not going to be a problem.
It's not gonna bother anything. The only thing is if it gets too windy, it's a little tougher on the spotting of the kelp.
Yeah, it's tough.
Although, you know, if it does blow like that, a lot of times it's easier to see it too because the kelp will flatten out. You know, you'll get ripples, but you'll see a flat spot a lot of times where the kelp is. So, you know, it's you know, a wind it's a win-win deal kind of on that. Even though you've got the wind, you're able to still spot a lot of the kelps. And it sounds like there's plenty of fish.
Oh my
Mixed
God!
grade.
Again here today, we're getting reports. Freedom
Yeah.
with 150. The
Yeah.
condor was up there
Yeah.
around $150. I mean, just everybody is. Like you said, Mexico 2 fish per rod. They've got limits down there. The guys that are on the U.S. side,
10 fish.
Yeah, they're just all
10
over
fish,
this thing.
yeah.
One thing that changed on that bite today, Danny, is there's been a lot of real small flatheads,
Oh.
like 5 pounds.
Shake them off, guys.
Today, I hear several boats that I've talked to personally. The captain said, "Hey, this fish grew up overnight. There's some really nice grade fish today."
Yeah.
So it sounds
Well, they
good.
do grow fast too.
Yeah.
Really. But,
Yeah.
yeah. Shake them off. Rather than bring home 2 fish sticks, let them go.
Yeah,
You got a shot
absolutely.
at them. Yeah.
All right, Isaac likes Seaforth Landing for one reason, because of the free parking. He says that he loves that. But when fishing or when trying to get a parking, so any tip on finding parking spaces at Point Loma sport fishing or any of those? I get frustrated trying to find parking. Yeah, Isaac, show up just a little early, like 3 days before your trip, man. Hey, I just go down to.
It's always been a problem from the time we
Yeah,
were kids.
yeah.
That's before they even charged for parking. I mean, before they redid that parking lot, we were parking in between planters and you name it. I mean, it was unbelievable. I do like the fact that with Seaforth and Islandia, when I had the lease on Islandia, the parking, same deal, was free. And my passengers, after all those years at H&M, they come up and they go, "Hey, where did I park? Where do I park?" And I go, "Where'd you park?" He said, "Right next to the office." I go, "Well, that's the parking, and it's free." So there's that advantage to that side of being over on Seaforth and Islandia.
Yeah.
So
You can go down there by Pizza Nova, and usually there's a place down there to park nowadays. So it's just part of the thing down there, Isaac. No question about it. Fishing for memories. Hey, Phil, how's the carnivore diet going? Oh, I was telling Danny, I've lost probably 25 pounds now. I'm guessing at that, but my belt is like, another notch down, another notch down. I'm not going to wait until October the 5th when I go back and see my doctor. My tests were all rock solid at that point in time, so we'll see. But I'm sleeping better. My aches and pains are gone, which I didn't have all that much, but I had a knee that I had surgery on. That's much better. No cramping anymore. Energy levels through the roof. And I just have no desire to eat a carbohydrate. Popcorn, candy bars, I'm just over it. I don't know why. And that's always been a problem for me, Danny. You put a dozen donuts in front of me, I'm going to eat every single one and be looking for another apple fritter. But right now, it's working good for me. Thank you so much for asking. Pando56. Hi, guys. Back to the limits question. If you're on a multi-day trip and have both Mexican and U.S. permit license, can you limit out in Mexican waters, cross the border, and limit out again? I don't know the answer to that.
well, you'll be able to take the
10 fish.
the 10 fish.
Yeah.
And the one thing now that constrains me more on catching more than what I need is when you come back and you look at your processing fees.
Yeah, right.
And are you giving it all away? If you're giving it all away and you want to spend several $100s to give it away, hey, have at it. But I've got to a point now where I'll tell guys, hey, you know what? You want fish? Come on down and get it. I'll give it to you.
Yeah,
Nice and fresh. Bring an ice chest. Some ice, throw it in there. So that becomes a problem. But you could take the max limit per day per the area. So I wouldn't be concerned with that. I think most people now are getting into self-limiting themselves, with respect to your fillet bills and your processing bills. So that's been a big thing. And usually nowadays, like on our big trips, I will call guys and tell them, you want a tuna? Come down and get it, Because number one, I just want to be able to take back stuff that I can put in the fridge. After 8 days, you come back, between putting cleaning your tackle up and everything else, when you're home, you want to spend time with the family and whatever, Last thing I want to do, and I used to do this year after year after year for I can't even think about how many years. Clean fish, process fish, give it to all the relatives, do this and that. No more. You want a fish? Come down, bring your ice chest, come and get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's how we handle things these days, folks.
All right, Michael Limon says hello, Danny. Wild Willie says good
Hey,
evening.
all right.
David Rosenthal says you're welcome. Thank you, David. You're the man. I think it's Greg Bates. We have 53 views and 53 likes. No, we don't. What are you talking about? And Noel says, hello, how are you guys doing? He's again in Guam in his native tongue, Hafa Day boat, it looks like. Ruben A. Hey, guys. Thank you for all the wisdom you share with us. I'm going fishing out of Long Beach on Sunday and was setting up for sandies and barracuda, but thinking rockfish now because of the temps. That definitely has happened. That wide open bass fight that we had is curtailed. It's gone down the tubes for the most part, Danny, and I think it's water temperature. But one thing, Ruben, and Danny will tell you this also, keep your ear to the whatever it is you keep your ear to, because there's bluefin, there's yellowfin, there's dorado nearby. Guys are just scratching at it, not catching that much, picking at it. But that light switch could go on tomorrow,
Well, yeah,
right?
and, you know, think about it. The difference between implementing a piece of tackle for sand bass and barracuda is a matter of you probably will be using a sinker for that. If you're fishing dorado, you're going to fly land it, so you take the sinker off. So think about it that way. I mean, if you're going to limit or you can bring two different setups. You know, one for fly lining baits and you know, one for sinker fishing. But it's always better to have it than being on the boat and saying, "Oh God, I should have brought that rod." You know, for you to take you out of that scenario where you're more effective for catching a fly line fish, bring that rod. Bring that rod and reel for that purpose, you know.
Ruben's going to be on a 3/4 day boat, so as Danny says, go prepared, Ruben. And hey, on the morning briefing, I'll be bringing you up to date. I've been pointing out, well, actually, it was Mike Morrison here, the manager of 22nd Street Landing, who about 3 or 4 days ago, we did a special update about all that exotic fish that we're seeing close to home. Man, I've got a homicidal kelp fly over here. Won't leave me alone. You can see me flailing over here. So, I mean, it's nearby. You got to really pay attention right now, and I'll cover it on the morning briefing. Hopefully, it's going to start to bite. David Alcantar, my biggest calico, was my 5th calico ever, 9.5 pounds. That is a beautiful fish. I've caught a few hundred since then, and nothing else came even close. I didn't appreciate that fish like I would today. Hey, well, there's no time like the present to appreciate it, because that's a gorgeous catch.
That's right.
You got me beat, David. You know, I'm guessing, but I'd say you got me beat 100%. All right, Isaac, thoughts on the last storm about turning up the water and bringing the colder waters up to the surface? Yeah, that definitely happened. We got that storm that came through, that's, you know, hurricane, whatever. It wasn't anything in terms of the wind, but it was enough to kind of mess things up, and it's taking a while to recuperate.
Yeah.
It will eventually, though, right?
There's still a tremendous amount. You know, and you got to remember, you know, the fish are here basically because of the biomass of bait, folks. You know, with the sardine mass of sardine and anchovies now, you know, I think we're set for unbelievable fall. You know.
I'm with you.
It's still good now, but I mean, I think we're going to have a crazy fall.
So when I set up that Apollo trip I was going, let's see, a 1-day trip, man. That could be a little dicey, but by September, we're going to have all kinds of good fishing. So I got that right, thank God.
Yeah.
And then I got 2 2-day trips on the Amigos, September, October. Those should be great.
Oh.
I'm thinking, right?
Tanner, Cortez, whatever. But I mean, you're going to get them.
Lots of options.
Yeah.
And weather is better in the fall, right, Danny, up here?
Absolutely. Generally speaking. And, like I said, you know, we technically, Phil and I lucked out with the albacore thing, you know, with the few that have been caught. But, you know, I've seen it like in 1984 where those big albies came in the channel, and it was in the fall. So, you know.
It's not over till the fat lady sings.
That's right. You just don't know.
Are you allowed to say that nowadays? The fat lady sings, or is that? Anyway. Okay. Thank God.
Yeah.
We haven't done away with that yet.
No,
huh?
we pretty much speak our minds.
Thank God. All right, John Dulay. How's everybody doing? John, welcome to the show. Great to see you here. Andres says, luckily, I don't mind to process it afterwards as a ritual at home. So he likes to do it, Andres. Well, and I get that too. When I was younger, I did.
Oh yeah, we did too. And the family would come over and we go, here, take whatever you want. You know, here's your Ziplocs or whatever. You know, and then whatever we wanted to put away for extended time, we would vacuum pack by hand, But I'm getting too old for that. When I get home, I want to go see the wife, the kids, the grandkids, everybody.
Right.
Now this is after a multi-day trip, but yeah, the mentality's changed. And my dad always had a saying. He says, give it away while it's fresh, so everybody can enjoy it. And
I'm with you.
I'm
with your dad.
I always believed in that because when you give away, your other friends, and we got a tremendous amount of friends that do that. They also they do the same thing, and there's always fish that goes around. So, that I think is the best way to go on that.
Me too. Wild Willie wants to know, Danny, what you think about using a treble hook at the bottom of a rip roller lure when you're dropping deep for the bluefin tuna. Do you like a treble hook on there or not?
I've been putting on those huge ones. The 400s. The 400s and everything, and then
particular brand that you like or anything?
I can't even remember what it. But go see your tackle shops. They will give it to you. I mean, it's heavy duty. Use the big rings. I mean, you just have to go max on everything because you're targeting a fish that's a special fish, maybe a once in a lifetime fish for you. You don't want any failures on it. So make sure all that hardware, from the top to bottom, whether you put a leader on it, swivels, whether you're crimping it, make sure everything's done correctly because that could be the fish of your lifetime.
All right, perfect. John Dulé, I think, is asking, is anyone going fishing this month? Heck yeah, a lot of people are going fishing this month. Greg Bates says, we need 53 likes. Okay, now I understand, Greg. We need more than 53 likes, Greg. We need all kinds of likes. Hit that like button, everybody.
Hit the button, folks.
Don't forget to share these videos, subscribe to the channel, tick the bell, and you'll be notified when Danny's show comes on the air. So keep that all in mind. Thank you, Greg. And Greg's a little bit under the weather right now. He's got the flu or something going on. To be honest with you, he's been whining like a little baby all day long, Danny. So
okay, wait here. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
You feel better.
You. That's for you, Greg.
You feel better.
Yeah, there you go, Greg. He's playing his violin for you.
Playing your violin. Look how sympathetic I am.
He feels like crap.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Greg.
Telling me,
couldn't resist. Yeah, he is. Give me the middle finger.
Yeah.
Felix Velador says, hey guys, going on a 2-day trip soon. Wanted some tips on gear. I have a Penn International 20 with 100-pound braid topped with 100-pound mono. I need a rod to match it with. Would a wrapped OSP 2x4 seeker rod be good? I'm out of this. I have no idea. I don't know.
Would be.
This is a good question for Sam, but maybe you know.
I think it would be. I'm just knowing. The 2x4s. You do need. You guys, any of you guys going, a day and a half where you're going into the bluefin grounds, you just don't know what you're going to pull up on. None of us do, and so you do have to have that 100-pound outfit ready, So you don't want to slide on the spot of your trophy once in a lifetime fish and not be prepared. So make sure you do have that 100-pound outfit and all the gear accordingly. And if you have any question about it, make sure your local tackle shop dealer sets it up for you.
Right, exactly. Okay. Or tune in on Tuesdays, too. Yeah. Sam De La Torre is great at all that.
Yeah.
Felix has another question. He has a Penn Fathom 40 with 60-pound braid in need of a rod. Also, what other outfits do you recommend to have along with me?
Well, you look at what we're targeting right now. You're going to need a light outfit, probably, for the Dorado, stuff like that, You'll need a medium one for, there's yellowtail. There's a mixing of yellowtail. Also, the smaller bluefin, they're eating, 25, 30 pound. I bring the kitchen sink pretty much because I do not want to get caught with my pants down and not have a specific piece of gear when I do have it. So I have it on board. If I use it, great. If I don't, great. But I have it. And it also serves as a backup should anything else happen to it. So, go prepared. Go prepared. You just don't know. And the thing is, with these fish, when you get out there, Cortez, Tanner, sometimes you'll get into some of the stuff the ones that we had on the Freedom last year, they weren't the real huge ones, but they're that 60-something to 100-pound fish, and you have to be prepared
nice
for
fish,
that.
right?
So they're intermediate. That's intermediate. I call it like intermediate tackle. I mean, unfortunately, they wouldn't eat heavier than 30 pounds, so it was a lot of work for us. But it's always good to have that tackle with you, because once you're there and those fish start biting, yeah, you can't run home. It's not you can't get that rod and reel that you left in the garage. So go prepared.
Chico, hello, Danny and Phil. Chico, good to have you here. Have you guys ever caught a luvar, and how do you like it? I've never caught a luvar. Have
Never
you?
caught one.
Have you
We
had
never
one
had-
caught on your boat?
Never had one on the boat either. You know,
Really?
but yeah, yeah.
I don't think I've ever been on a boat with
I think
one.
my brother. I think those guys did one year. you
Yeah?
know. Very oily.
Right.
I think
Oil fish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're good eating. Very rich.
Yeah.
A small amount, because if you have too much of it,
It's a laxative.
You will pay dearly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I couldn't resist.
You'll be running. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good sound effects, Phil.
Thank you.
Good sound effects.
Thank
you
you.
did that well.
Ken Trenholm. Ken, man, is it good to see you with us here tonight. Ken was on board the latest trip that we just had on the Horizon,
Wow, that's
and he
awesome.
hasn't been fishing for decades. And
Oh.
he came across our shows, you know, on the
Yeah,
Friedman Adventures
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And he goes, man, I got to go. And he ended up having a great trip. And he ended up, the last fish of the day was the biggest fish of the day, over 100 pounds.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Ken-
Oh, what a finish.
Yeah, man, it was
What
great.
a finish.
Ken, we'll see you on the Apollo Thursday night,
That's
man.
awesome.
Looking forward to it. John Dulay, I'm planning on going fishing on the Condor. Anyone who is interested to go fishing? I'm sure a lot of people are interested.
Yeah.
John, yeah, there you go. John will be on board the Condor, so you can join him out there. All right, Andres is going on a 2-day trip on the Pegasus October 15th. Just curious what to expect on average during that time of the year. Well, that's going to be yellowfin tuna, dorado. It's going to be warm water, right, Danny?
Yeah.
Um,
yeah. But,
maybe-
you know, we just don't know.
You don't.
We just don't know. You
But
know,
on
in the
average,
fall- yeah.
that's what you're looking at,
Yes,
right?
Usually in the fall.
Yellowfin,
But
maybe
like I
big
said,
eye,
There was a time. There was
albacore.
A year
Yep.
when we got those big elbies in the fall.
Yeah, it's a great time of the year,
just don't
Andres, for variety.
Oh,
You-
we also had wahoo that one year. That
yeah,
was
yeah.
unbelievable. you know.
Marlin,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
marlin this
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
up in this neck of the woods. I would expect the unexpected, as Danny is saying, Andres. It should be the perfect time of the year. And say hi to those boys on the Pegasus to me. I love those guys, man. We stay in contact all year long, and they're good guys. Kim Smith, Danny and Phil, I have a good fish processor. His name is Dan, her husband. That's who that is. And he knows if he wants to go fishing on the Kim fish, he better clean them fish. But he really loves cutting fish, and some people do.
that's good.
Dan,
Yeah.
why don't we call Dan next time?
There you go.
Let him do it. Hey, we got a special guest too. Well, let me just read a couple more questions. Then somebody just came in and wants to do some freshwater bass talk, which I am woefully ignorant about. So I'll let these two guys chat for a second.
Awesome.
Pando56, if you have problems with processing your fish, make friends with a Filipino family. They take it whole heads and guts. Also, love processing my fish. My grandma gets the majority of my catch. Rick Slater, get your mug in there. Are you eating more fish on your carnivore diet? No, I'm eating mostly ribeyes. Sorry about that. Ruben A just sent us $10. Thank you, Ruben. Really, really, really appreciate you, my friend. Dan Smith got a luvar in his nets when he was fishing swordfish. He said it was delicious.
Oh, yeah.
I have never seen another one since then. All right, and did you get the laxative effect? And one more, and then we'll take just a slight break. We'll catch up with all your questions. I've always get that question that someone's saying you think you have enough poles. I bring 10 rods and reels on my trips. All right, well, Will Hogue is back. Now, Will runs, of course, the El Patron. We love Will. He did such a great job. I'm grabbing his shirt right now, and he's like, hey, don't touch me, you creep. Yeah, no, we want to put it up a little higher. You talk nice and loud, Will. All right, there we go. Will Hogue. And you and Danny can
Hold
talk.
on, Danny.
How you
How you
doing,
been?
Will?
Good.
Why don't you boys talk a little freshwater bass fishing?
Well,
Will, I don't know if you want to pick his. You can be the interviewer, too, in this, because...
I'm not sitting in that chair. That chair bit me
That's the
yesterday.
booby trap.
That's the booby trap chair.
Let me
No.
make sure you guys are both in there. Take it away, boys.
What's going on?
Well, you know, it's funny because this morning, for a little bit, I sat down and I watched these guys doing the Bassmaster Classic, right? And I watched these tournament shows and I look at it, okay, what is it, 2023. right? And I look back, we had done this stuff in the 70s and 80s, right? And when we implemented the scanning sonars and stuff, now these guys have the live
Oh yeah,
scans and stuff
the
like
forward
that.
facing,
Yeah,
all
the
the
forward-facing stuff. But,
the live scope,
you know,
the active target, the Mega Live, all the
the
brands.
same thing that I would question them, but you and I would have the answer to as skippers is, where's the current? Where's the current? You know, and they have, most of those guys really don't have a clue, you know, and it's, when you're positioning on a specific structure, we're targeting those big fish, you know, and we had the blessing of being around like the Sansom brothers and Montero. And,
See, see that's
like
something
that.
I never take into effect on a lot of lakes is which way is the current. I take it in on the delta, which way
Yeah.
the current's running, because
Yeah.
they're going to face into it. And you know, lakes where there's not a lot of water movement. You know, I know when they fill Diamond Valley, but then you have to take into account which way the wind's blowing to get the surface current for those fish to pull.
Sure.
And they talk about it like on the Tennessee River, how when they're pulling water, it activates the fish, but when they don't pull water, the fish just kind of mill. It's kind of like fishing the island. When there's no current, you can't catch anything because the fish have no direction. They just mill and they don't respond.
We always, the other thing we did that we had the advantage of is drop down the line size, because you know, my God, I fished. Well, my 10-pound XT broke at 17, so it's plenty. Very little stretch, you know. But we did a lot more homework than most of the guys at that time, and particularly the bass guys. You know, I mean, the bass guys, they're looking at a X15, or before that was the 1510s, and you're seeing the market in their head, they're looking at something two-dimensional, where because we had the background with the sonars and everything, looking at the points three-dimensionally with respect to the current, we'd set up on them like we would set up at the
See,
islands
now
or
you're giving me ideas. Now it's like a whole other perspective I never even
well, you
thought
know,
about. But
it made all the difference. You know, particularly
yeah.
when you get well, we didn't have the currents that were really prominent, except for like a Casitas and like a Stag. But on those particular spots, they were all the spots where we hung all the 20-pounders, all the big fish. So they gravitated to the structure with respect to the current. You know, and it was time of day. There was a
Ambush
lot of different
points,
things. There's
stuff
different
like
things.
that.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the other thing was, it was kind of a finesse deal, because you know we're too much in the hype in the line. You know, people.
As I said, I
recognize
remember
us.
when we first talked, we were talking about like back, and I'm like, oh, I remember you, yeah, back in Western Outdoor News, you know, the 5-pound test, the crawdads, and you know, stuff like that, and that was how everybody was catching them. And then all of a sudden, like the Allen Cole AC plug came out, and guys were fishing stripers, and they started catching big bass on them. And they didn't even look like those AC plugs.
Chunk of wood.
Yeah, a chunk of wood with a
angled
worm
at
king
45
tail on it.
And a worm. It was very
And
crude.
the bass would come up and tail it, and the guys would be in a float tube, and he'd come up and tail it and follow it around, and it just kind of went from there and blew up.
Oh yeah.
So
now you got Butch. I mean, Butch is
Butch is cool.
Butch is the king.
Butch
is the king. Well, you know, people look at that, and I've known Butch for a lot of years, and he is the GOAT. You know, I don't know many guys that have 4 bass boats staged at different lakes to fish all those lakes. I wouldn't do it. I can tell you right now. You know, I trailered from.
Well, if you want to fish
one lake to
casitas, you almost have a dedicated bass boat
Exactly.
for casitas due
And
to
so-
the tagging issues here in
See,
Southern California.
And he's the guy that he'll go through those. You know.
But then he's got that
extent.
little boat that he fishes the lagoon in.
That, you know how fast that thing is? I'm thinking
not
with
very
my
fast.
Champ, I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got all this, the power with my batteries and the powerful trolling motor. Guess what? He went out of sight before, when I launched, by the time I launched, he was at the other end of the after
the
band.
trolling
I'm going,
motor?
yeah, he was probably on his first fish already, you know.
Yeah.
But no, nobody's better than Butch, I'll tell you. Just great fisherman overall.
Oh yeah, he's very approachable.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
easy
He's
going.
awesome, yeah.
I fished with him a couple times when I worked on the El Dorado. Great guy, just easy going.
You know, I can remember when he started saltwater fishing, and he started with my mentor, you know, the guy I bought the Mustang from Taka. And I think he got a 300 his first trip. But, you know, it's not by luck. He's fishing with Corky Yokoi, who's also not only a bass fisherman, but he was, you know, Corky had the big tune. But he does his homework. He does his due diligence. He doesn't chintz on anything. He goes right for the best tackle, and he does everything right. But he gets his homework right. And he's such a good guy. Everybody's going to work with him. I'll talk.
There you go.
You know,
So
that's also the thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we run into guys over the years that you know, that I didn't share dope with, you know, because the information wasn't reciprocated. So, you know, we had a network of guys that we worked with on the ocean as we did on the lakes, you know. So that was a big important part of it.
No, and it's tough. I mean, it's, you said we talked before, but so what you been up to? What you been doing? You been bass fishing?
No, I haven't done
Why
that
not?
in years. I hung that up. Well, because of the fact, like I said, you need 4 boats to go effectively. We do. I take that back. We did.
You need 4 boats
we
to go
did-
effectively bass fishing.
We went. We hire a guide for Kachuma, which I used to fish when I was in junior high school and high school. You know, and then you know we'll go hop around the different lakes. We'll go with Rich Tavers, his operation, and we're getting to the point where we get the pontoon because we can bring all the food, and that becomes a bigger part of the thing than
Not even
fishing
worried about
anymore.
fishing.
Yeah. So it's changed. It's changed. It's not that hardcore. I got to be the first one in line anymore.
No,
and beat everybody in the
oh,
spot.
gosh.
You know. So, but that's what it took back in those days. But I had
Oh,
that. I was
it's-
a lot younger.
I still like the tournament thing where you know, everyone's like, do you got to have a boat that goes that fast? I'm like, nope. Like, but why? I'm like, because can. How fast it go? 70, 75. Do you really need to go 75? No. But why? But why not? And the only time you ever really go that fast is when you're just going to your first spot.
Yeah.
And other than that, you're
Yeah.
you're kind of easy going.
Yeah.
But everyone's like, you guys are that competitive? Like, that's right. If I can't outfish you, I'm going to outrun you.
Let me tell you something. I had my boats built, especially because I usually had my mechanic from Harbor Diesel, Harold, who had it with me, because the man would never take a nickel for any of the work he did. He kept all our boats running, and he was the best Detroit guy ever, right? So Harold had the center seat, and then my partners would flop around, but we had it dialed in. When you dump the boat in, it was like a Le Mans start, right? Run down the ramp, boat's already fired up. The minute he hits the ramp, boom. Nobody's going to be in the spot, you know, because it would do 70 with 3 guys, you know. But, yeah, it was hardcore. You know, I had cured out my baits, my crawdads. You know, one
See,
time there was
now it's even harder to do that. You can't fish, can't bring any water
I know, isn't
anywhere.
that
You
crazy?
can't go to Castaic.
Yeah,
if
it's
if it
nuts.
rained, well, the lake's gonna. If you don't have a tag on your boat and it rained, it's the best time to go to those lakes, Diamond Valley, Castaic, because nobody can go fishing, except the guys that had tags on their. You know, we did my part of that Orange County Bass Club there.
Yeah.
And we did a tournament on Diamond Valley, and it rained the day before, and it rained a little bit that morning, and it's like the club had the entire free range of the lake. There's all 10 or 12 of us fishing the tournament, and there was 12 of us on the whole lake. It's like we had our own private little,
Oh, sweet.
and then
Sweet.
toward later of the day, you get some of the rental boats out there, and a couple other boats. But first thing in the morning, it was just us. There was nobody else in line, which was nice.
Oh, yeah, this is going to kill you. You know how it originated, right? They had like about 3 different, basically, lakes that would fill. And as one filled, it would spread into the other. So they had 4 different, I think it was 3 or 4 different places that were.
You're talking like the Riverside
original,
ones?
Yeah.
Like,
Where
because I know it
they-
goes into
when
into
they filled
Silverwood, and then it flew into.
Well, no. Right at Diamond Valley.
Oh, really?
They had different areas. That
Oh, and
they
I saw
sought,
I saw the
and then
ponds that had
as
expired.
filled,
Yeah.
It grew in, right? So I was very good friends with all the guys at Fishing Game. So when they first got it up to where it was at, one solid level, we had heard that the group that came in before us, it was Mike Giusti and Bannicky, the 2 guys, were fishing pontoons, and all it had was a meter on it, no trolling motor, nothing. And we just threw these drifts. Well, the time before we got there, I can't remember. I think it might have been Wendy and a few other people, and one other person plus Giusti and Bannicky, and they had like right at 300 bass. And this is when they first filmed it. So they're like 8 to 12 inches, right? So I'm licking my chops. We get there, and we're on the pontoon. We're doing these drifts. We're not doing squat. I think we might have had 60 fish. I go, God, we stink, you know? The wind comes up, and it was just
Like a light switch.
Yeah, it's like a light switch. All 4 of us were on. We ended up with 308 fish.
Yeah. Now you go to Diamond Valley, and if you catch 3 or 4, you're like, yes, awesome.
But you know, we watched it as they grew, and then it got to the point. I went 4 times. I think the worst trip we had was maybe 150 fish or something like that. But by that time, there were a lot of 4 to 7-pound fish, and we get them on swim baits and things like that. And I was using my calico swim
So
bait.
this had to have been a long time ago. Then.
Yeah,
It ain't
because
been
I haven't.
lately.
I've never fished that lake since it's
Yeah,
open.
it's a beast.
Yeah.
It's either really really good or it's really really bad. I have that love hate relationship with that lake. It's kind of like the bluefin
Yeah.
fishing.
Yeah,
You love to
yeah.
catch the fish when they bite, but you hate fishing there sometimes.
Well,
So,
that's
but
it.
it's-
You know, it all gets like that. You take your lumps. You know.
So
you get
let me
that's part
ask
of
you something. So you grew up.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interview here. It's like one.
Yeah.
You grew up back in you fished these lakes in the '80s, and you saw
Some
do
of
you
them in the 70s.
70. Okay,
Yeah.
but the big fish.
Yeah.
Do you think our Southern California lakes have the ability to turn out those 18 to 22-pound monsters like they used to?
No, I don't think so. You know what it was?
Is
It was
the
our
trout?
first. Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't really the trout. I think what it was okay. California initially was stocked with the northern strain from Illinois, right?
Okay.
So what happened was when Jim Brown brought the Floridas down to Otay, okay, and we saw it then, those fish started to grow because those bass had the traits. It took the best traits of the Florida bass, plus the aggressiveness of the northern bass that we had naturally, right? So that cross, and that first generation crossbreed was the big boys.
The big ones that were
Whether
aggressive.
it was Otay, Vicini, all the
Hodges
San Diego
was
lakes,
good.
but Hodges they never stocked it with trout, so they grew faster at Miramar and Vicini, right?
Yeah, Hodges had a lot of 10-pound fish.
Yeah.
More consistent
Yeah,
10
they
pounders.
did have some big fish.
But,
They did have
yeah,
some
they had
big
more
fish.
toolies,
Yep.
more of a river
Yeah.
size,
Yeah.
river structured system.
Right.
Water dogs.
So when they put them in Castaic and Casitas, okay, same field. The difference with those two lakes is we do have current, okay. 90-something% of the guys had no idea there was current there. You know,
Well,
so
I
they
was one,
gave-
and I
they
was one of
gave
them
us-
apparently because
they
I
gave us
didn't
an
even think
edge.
about it.
They gave us a huge edge, you know, because there's certain things, certain areas that, well, come on, you're fishing Cortez. What edge of the bank you going to fish? What's going to drive that?
The current.
Well,
You got to know which way the current's going, how the bait sets up one side. Sometimes the fish run down the other side. You know, the bait gets off that edge. The fish are on that downhill waiting for anything that's weak to fly off the backside of it, and they pick it off.
That's exactly why guys like Taka, the Sansom brothers, Ray Montero, you know, a lot of the captains. That's why we were blessed to have had that background and knowledge to understand that.
Now,
you
see, it's
know.
opposite for tuna. It is for like the yellowtail because you want to be above the area going into the current, so the
Right.
yellowtail pull to
Right.
you.
Right.
But when you're fishing tuna, you want to be on the other side. That way, you want to be on the opposite because they're going to
Mm-hmm.
pick off everything that gets blown off the bank. That's what they want to eat.
Okay, now I'm going to give you one key thing.
All right,
That-
I should borrow your notepad and take notes.
The thing,
He watched the show.
the thing,
I know, huh?
the thing that's tough is because there's no longer any first generation crosses between the northern strain and the Floridas, right? But one of the key things was the current, right? And it had to do with I hooked, and I know where the 20s. I knew, you know, I was there. I hooked one. Croupy caught it, and I was over 20. Had my hook in it. Had a Miller knot. You know, had the camouflage line, hand camouflage line. I had, you know, and had that much of the line left. Right? Don't sweat it. Don't sweat it.
Everybody's calling me now
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
Oh, they want to know the dope on the fish.
I know,
right?
I know the dope on the
Okay.
fish.
The other one was a spot at Casitas back at Chismahoo, not Chismahoo. God, what's the name of that spot? It might have been Chismahoo. But
I've
it
never
was
even
way
fished
in the back.
Casitas. I don't have 41
where-
days to wait for my
Yeah.
boat to be dry.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. Well, the Sansom brothers used to fish back there. Don and Danny used to fish another point. John Collins. I mean, there are a lot of great fishermen that were up there. But the one thing that was consistent in the spot at Castaic, back at Taka's Rock, back at the end of the fishing arm, the current when it hit these particular spots, it split. The current split, so it created that like a feeding station.
The little eddy where they
But-
could pop up.
Yeah, a great amount of our fish over 10 were caught on those particular spots, and those real big ones were. In that one spot, I was with Corky Yokoi in his boat, and I hooked, I think, at Casitas, one of the biggest fish. We had it up on top. It got up on top, and I was thinking, well,
I wouldn't even know what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've caught 2 over 10, and like I caught one in a park, You know, back when they used to stock trout, you know, you'd go throw 8-inch Huddlestons through the Orange County parks and LA parks, and people would look at you like you were crazy, and then you'd catch a fish, and they're like, but it was like fishing muskie. You just made a bunch of casts. Sometimes you know, I think my best week I had 3 from 3 different lakes, but it's like my car was like my bass boat. I had everything in my car. I had 5 or 6 rods in there, and I'd go to different lakes and I'd pull a rod out.
That's awesome.
And I had the trout stock. I knew when the trout were getting stocked at certain lakes, and the week before they got stocked, they'd be on the bait fish bite, and the week after they got stocked, they'd be on the trout bite. So you had to do 2 rods with you, and talk about a little bit of, you know, paying attention to everything going on, and you learned where to fish and where not to. But I remember fishing the first one I ever got that was over 10. I got it at a park in Orange County, and I was fishing the 3rd of July the first time. And it was slow, and I grabbed like a 6-inch swim bait, and I fired it out there, and I was just reeling it back, and I watched a 7-pounder follow it, and it turned and went away. And I was like, you know what, I'm coming back here tomorrow, I'm bringing the swim bait rod. And I brought the swim bait rod, and the weather changed, and everything was different, and I couldn't get a fish to follow, and I'm talking to a guy, he's throwing a little Rico popper, and he's catching some like 1-pounders, and I'm fishing around, I see this big fish just sitting there. And I was like, oh, look at that one, that's a big one. And he goes, I'm not even going to throw the popper, it's not going to eat it. And I pick up that when Savage Gear first came out with their line throughs, and I had mine, it was a floater, but I weighted it with nail weights, so it just basically slowly, barely moved down. And I fired that thing out there, and I went way past it on purpose, and I was going to bring it back, and it left. The fish just swam away. I was like, oh, man. So I'm just working my bait, and I look, and I go, oh, it's behind it. And she was trailing it, and I stopped it, and I watched her, and she just she lifted up, and she kind of nosed up, head up on it, and looked at it. And I pushed it about 3 feet in front of her, made the thing dash out real quick, and that fish just rolled up, and all of a sudden she just opened her mouth up, and my bait disappeared. And I was like, oh my gosh, got one! And those fish you never catch, because every fish that I've seen eat my bait, I miss them. And that thing just inhaled that 8-inch bait like it was nothing. And I said, running down the bank and get it, I think the thing weighed 10-1.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, man, and it was in July. So, if you're thinking pre-spawn or spawn time, that fish probably been 12 pounds.
Yeah.
But then I got one at the Delta on a S waver, and I watched it come out of the grass and just suck down my bait. And I set the hook. It never jumped. It just kind of dug around a little bit. And I woke my kid up who was sleeping on the back deck of the boat. I said, dude, I got a good one. And he goes, yeah, do you need the net? I said, no, I don't think it's that big. I think probably 5 or 6 pounds. And I reached down and I grabbed it and I went, oh. He goes, what? I go, oh.
Not bouncing that one.
And I grabbed it by the mouth, and I lifted it up, and my kid's eyes were just as big as that fish's eyes. Like, oh my gosh! I'm like, that's a 10-pounder. They have that whole different look to them. They don't even look like a 7 or 8. They just the bugged eyes, the big belly. They're thick. Yeah. And Champion's got big live wells, and I put that thing in there, and she barely fit in the live well. She just sat there, and I was like that thing's huge. Oh. And I kind of like kept her in there for like 5 minutes while I calmed down. Took a couple pictures of her. Recorded her swimming off, and I'm like, call my buddy. I'm like, I just got a 10-pounder. He's like, what? I'm like, just got a 10-pounder. He's like, serious? I'm like, yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's
what Champion did you have?
I have a 203.
Okay, I had a 192 was it? But Rick built it. I had one live well. It went from side to side.
Well, mine's one, but it's got the metal divider in there, so I can pick it up and drop it.
No,
but
I had no dividers, because we were able to keep, if you're on the spot, you're on these fish.
I like, know what's funny is because I started bass fishing, so I started in like 86, 87, at parks and golf courses. And the first guy that really showed us anything was, guy that used to shake, used to be part owners over there at West Coast Tackle.
Down on Los Alamitos?
Yes. God, can't
I know you're talking about. I remember all the guys in there.
Yeah, it wasn't Sky. It wasn't the other one. But he shook a worm a lot.
They were bass guys, though, really.
Well, no, one of them was.
Not in the shop.
Not in the shop.
Not in the shop, yeah.
But he had the hand-poured worms. He'd do a lot of Western worms, and he used to fish the Lakewood Country Club with me.
Joe? Was it Joe?
I think it was Joe. Joe,
Joe something. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
he's-
grew up down on the docks too. Wasn't he associated with boats at one time? Or
I think he was.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he'd give us like the weenie worms and stuff. Try these and shake a worm and fish the Kalen lunker grubs, and he'd talk about going in and fishing the lake that you're not letting, Lake Matthews, and how he used to sneak across with the army blanket and drag it across the road.
He had
and,
to wear chaps too because of the
and then-
rattlesnakes, right?
Yeah, and Joe Arby.
Yeah, I remember Joe. That's right. That's right, Joe. Yeah.
And he was always winning. We're like, I don't want to fish, just fish him. And
Well, there's a old fishing icon. I don't know if you remember him, Herb Curley. You remember who Herb Curley was? He was
don't.
one of the best captains, I guess, ever around. Locally.
I was a kid. I didn't
This
know a
is
whole
back
lot
in
of
the old
nothing.
days. I mean,
Yeah, I was.
This is when they took all the bearings off the Space Needle at Port Socorro, right? But yeah, he was phenomenal. He was one of the early guys. He literally used to commercial fish largemouth for the Chinese market, Chinatown. I mean, these stories are hilarious, But he was
See,
one
this
of
is
the
this
best
is stuff
fishermen ever.
you're never gonna get
But-
anything of that. But
Fish Langley,
back to
reels, and,
like the modern stuff.
yeah.
Having all the live scope. You hear everybody, oh, it's cheating. It needs to be banned. It needs to be outlawed, and it's a tool. And half the people don't even understand how to use it. It's, oh, you're cheating, you're staring at them. You know how many times I stare at fish that I can't catch?
Yeah.
It tells me their mood. It tells me if I throw a jerkbait out there and they come up and they look at it, and I jerk it and they go back down. They don't want to eat a jerkbait. I don't need to continue to throw jerkbait because they don't want it.
Well, you run boats, so George Meal, who was right here, the new hustler too, put on the first. He had a black and white unit, and I used to second for him on the hustler when I was working with Taka. And when I bought the Mustang, just right after that, one of the first things we did was, Westmark came out with the colors.
I remember the new Hustler 2 had
Okay.
one of the first sonars on
So
the boat.
George got it, and I'm his code boat, so we put one on. We didn't. We kept it real quiet. We didn't want to tell the boys in San Diego we had it, And we had the right groups. We had the guys that could smoke, could smoke the fleet. You put them on the fish, and so we didn't say anything, But that changed a lot of the game. It
Oh, it did. It gives you a-
helped brought the fleets
It gives you
together.
it gives you an 800-foot path or 400, 500 foot on each side. It gives you a
yeah.
1,000-foot swath to drive
Yeah.
around instead of, you're looking at a 100-foot beam hoping you run over something. It
So I'm
just
telling
makes a
you,
huge difference.
Credit to the commander, George Mio, for that, and I was fortunate enough to be his code boat, So that went down there. It changed the game because all of a sudden now, the San Diego guys before it was northern boats versus southern boats.
It
And
always
then they
was.
Hey,
It always was.
You want to come into our group? But no, we're doing okay. We're fine. But we ended up starting to work together with them.
No, and
things
you'd
changed.
see the boats that had the sonar. You knew they had sonar because you drive around and you'd see them spin around and stop, and you're like, what are they stopping on?
Yeah.
And you
Or
just,
you're not just doing a circle; you're tracking them.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different.
yeah, you're hunting them down
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
figuring out where they're going, and
Yeah.
it makes a huge difference. Being able to find them on a sonar and spin around, or just throw a little bit of bait and watch them react, or get them on the up and down, and then they pop up. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
but it's
Absolutely.
a learning curve. It's a huge learning curve learning how to read it all.
So the beauty of a lot of that was we implemented that knowledge, and we took, like guys like Taka and a few other guys, that implemented that when we were fishing on the lakes, and in our head,
See,
we're
and I-
setting up on spots with respect to the current and stuff like that. See, you would understand that.
Well, yeah, and then what's funny, like
Yeah.
going back to like fishing units and stuff like that. I got good at fishing electronics, and then I went and guided in Alaska at Waterfall, and the units they gave me were the same unit I had on my bass boat, and I was like, ooh. So I dialed that thing in, and I had it all the settings done, and of course the head guide was Tanaka or Takata. Or one of the guys he was up there all the time, but he's like, hey, will you set up all the other new boats and put them the same way? I'm like, okay. And I'd run around and I'd look at things and I'd start to learn how they mark, and I'd move around. I'd watch all these guys motor mooching, and that's what we were doing. And I'd motor through the fleet real slow, and I was looking for bait balls, and I was looking for marks. And I'm like, guys, when I tell you I'm gonna spin around, I tell you to let them go, let them go. And they're like, what? I'm like, just trust me on this. And I'd get a bait ball with a mark on it, and I'd spin the boat around. And I'm like, let them go. And they're like, I don't understand. And like a couple times you do it, and then we'd catch a couple silver, a couple kings or silvers.
Yeah.
And then I'd start motoring around, and I'd spin the boat around and shut it off, and they'd already, all four of them already going. They're like, they figured it out real quick. Like, they're like, we've never fished like this up here. I'm like, it's implementing what you learn down here to what they've shown you up there and making it all work. I mean, it's fishing. It's not different. It's almost the same. It's just implementing it a different way.
Well, you were at Waterfall. So Danny Sellis took me up to Steamboat, which is
that's the sister
company,
one right up there.
Company.
Yeah.
So
little remote one.
We get out there, and the guy that's running our boat.
Who ran your boat?
Matt.
Oh, I love Matt.
Came right
That's
off,
awesome.
Came right off. I remember Matt from the American
Tracer.
Angler.
Well, he was on the Tracer.
Yeah.
I took a couple of his groups out there.
Hilarious.
He's cool.
Here you go, all the way up to Alaska, and here you go. What do you got? Your Highlanders, the San Diego boys, right?
That was like the the guy that does Johnny Johnson fishing, that the Toyota dealership. I can't think of which one he does, but they also Josh Bertrand, also sponsored by him, and the guy that owns it, him and his dad and some of those guys, they were in my group. I took them the first year, and they're wearing all their logoed sweatshirts and look like bass fishermen. And I'm like, I got to know him. I'm like, dude, so Johnny Johnson and he's like, yeah, they're really good guys. I'm like, dude, you need to bring those guys up here and go fishing. We can have a good time. And he's like, yeah, but they were a real good group, and they responded. I was giving them crap about the sweatshirts. I'm like, how much a sweatshirt like that cost? He's like $200. I'm like, God. Dang, well, it's because it's got all the logos. Huh? Yeah, it's got all the logos on it and everything. And I was like, man, that's expensive. He goes, you want one? I'm like, well, if you want to bring Hatch Toyota, that's who it was. It was Chaz Hatch. And he goes, you want one? I'll send you one. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, I'll send you one. He's like, I'll send one up to you. And sure enough, like 2 weeks later, here's this fluorescent green Hatch Toyota sweatshirt thing from, comfy as can be. Looked like a billboard advertisement, salmon fishing. Everyone's like, where the hell? What? No. And of course, they're not bass fishermen. So they're like, the guys up there are like, no, I'm not wearing, no, that thing's, what the hell's wrong with you? I'm like, dude, this is cool. For us, it was cool because, it's like Ish or Kevin or somebody, you see them and you take them fishing, they give you a jersey. You're like, this thing is awesome.
Yeah.
You're a proud owner of it. You're like, look at this thing.
That's right.
Yeah, they were like, no, but they were awesome to have up there, and they were the same thing. They're like, dude, how do you get all this stuff? If you fish, I'm like, dude, it's just fishing. Just having a good time. But
well, it's nice how that everything transcends the information. How going up there and fishing that way. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they picked up by having Southern California captains and guys up there. I mean,
I went up there knowing nothing. I went up there with they're like, what do you know about salmon fishing? I'm like, I can tie the leader and the hook. That's it. Whatever you guys show me. And those guys up there were, it was that whole keep it simple, stupid. And I think that's our biggest problem when we have bass fishing is we decide we have to overcomplicate it. Like I saw one of the questions, I have 10 rods. Do I need to bring the whole kitchen sink? So, dude, that's not even nothing. 10 rods in a bass boat, that's not even bringing the whole sink. That's just bringing like a little toolbox. Your kid's toolbox, not even the whole thing. I mean, I think I have 30 rods in my boat when I go places.
No, everything's specialized, very specialized for every little thing, So.
And you pull a rod out like, oh, this looks like this, and you just reach in there and grab it out, and you use it, and people are like, well, how many rods you got in there?
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to retie. We're just going to grab another rod.
Just get another rod, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, right your time. Do you got some questions there, Phil?
I do, actually.
Oh, there we go.
Hey,
break into some.
Sorry, yeah.
Boys fishing. Hey, I bass fish too. 10 rods are laying on the deck, not even what's in the box.
That's right. That's a true bass fisherman right there. That's called junk fishing at the finest. You don't know what you need, but you feel naked if you don't have 10 rods across your deck.
McDaddy says, all my 10-plus fish I've caught, 10 pounds, caught on park and community lakes and reservoirs where it's private property, bodies of water. You had to sneak in. The majority he caught at night. You ever sneak in, Will?
I cannot confirm or deny that. I gotta. You know what? I've done my due share when I was a kid. I used to sneak into. When you're 15, the harbor patrol has a little softer spot on you. We used to take our bikes down to the pilot station in Long Beach, and fish off the dock and catch blue perch and bass and sand bass and stuff like that. And they'd run us off, and we'd go back to the other side and we'd fish again. And it was like an every week thing. Or the Lakewood Country Club, we went in there. One marshal would tell us to stay on a little island. The other marshal would kick us out. And then we'd be in there with like a stick and a piece of line messing with a bluegill. And he's like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "Nothing." And he knew. We didn't have any fishing rods, but he knew we were in there for no reason but to go fishing. But he couldn't prove that we were in there for. It just. The Lakewood Country Club was the place to go in Long Beach. It was just.
Oh yeah. Well, Los Alamitos Golf Course had them too.
I didn't fish there, and then I knew I had a buddy that told me about El Dorado Park's duck pond, and he's like, "You ever want to have fun?" He goes, "Go take your crankbait hooks off and just go throw a crankbait down the bank." I'm like, "Okay," and I did it, and sure enough, you'd watch these like 3-pound bass just come up and eat your crankbait, and they'd spit it out, and you just keep going, and grab it, and spit it out, and shake them off.
Yeah.
And somebody called the Rangers on me, and I was sitting there and I was casting my little. He pulled up, and me and him became really good friends. And he goes, "Hey man, you can't be fishing in here." I said, "Not fishing, no hooks." And he goes, "Okay." I said, "I'm just practicing."
Oh God.
He goes, I said, "Hooks require a hook." I go, "Fishing requires a hook." I said, "I'm not fishing, I'm just casting." He goes, "All right," and he just kind of he goes, "You got a point." So he let me go. And I remember he came down another morning, and I was fishing. I walked by this guy, he's walking his dog, and I said, "Good morning." He gave me this dirty look. And sure enough, 15 minutes later, here comes the park ranger, and he gets out. He goes, "How did I know it was going to be you?" I'm like, "Hey, Officer Ortiz, how are you?" He's like, "Good." I'm like, "I bet that guy right there just called you guys." He's probably. I go, "Yeah, he's looking." He goes, "Yeah, he's going to keep looking more when I drive away and you continue to fish." I'm like, "Probably," but
Oh my God.
I think there's a lot of the local rangers know, park people, we all fish in the dark. A lot of us do because it's the different bite. And a lot of them would let us know, the problem with that is you got people that abuse it and they don't go into the parks just to fish. They get bored. They start tearing stuff up.
Yeah.
They destroy
No,
property.
I agree.
And it's like the golf courses. I mean, if you stay out of the way of the golfers, but then you see people, they go tear the tees up. They leave trash on the golf courses. They just do everything. They cut holes in the fences. Yeah. And it makes us look so bad. Yeah. When we're not trying to be bad fishermen, we just want to catch some fish.
And we got that passion. I mean, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I've hid away from the Lakewood Sheriff's helicopters and built forts out of trees and all that stuff. I mean, that's what you do when you're 18, but it's not what you do when you're 50. 50, you have a different look at it, like, I'm not doing that, sorry. Sounds like a great idea, but I'm just going to go ahead and pass. Or hey, we can walk into this lake. It's only 2 miles in the dark. 2 miles? No, I'm good. I'm good.
30 years old. My two kids.
30? You know what, 30, I probably would have thought about it.
They recently, I want to say within the last couple of years, jumped the fence at Los Alamitos race course and had the cops shining lights, and they're down hiding in there.
Oh, in the horse track?
The actual horse race.
There's good fishing in the horse track.
Yeah, they didn't catch anything, they said.
Well, no, they got caught.
They actually tried.
But they got caught.
They didn't get caught.
They didn't.
They got down, and then they waited, and then they finally got out.
That's awesome. That's funny right there.
Is the statute of limitations over for them?
Probably.
Hey, this is great stuff.
Well, we did our part.
Yeah.
I pulled my bass boat into the laundry, and I put a few tens in there and put some in Cerritos Regional.
Cerritos used to have, Hartwell used to have a whole bunch of fish in it, and then people the problem is people start seeing it, and then they start using the bluegill that are in there that they're not supposed to use for bait, and then they catch the bass, and then they keep the bass, so they're actually destroying the fishery because they're catching the bluegill that are the forage base. So we're killing the bluegill to catch the bass, and we're killing the bass, so we're taking 2 fish to catch 1, which just
it's a shame.
It destroys it. But the awesome thing about this generation on YouTube, that's most of these younger guys watching, word of advice: if you're gonna do something stupid, don't do it on camera.
See, we had that blessing. We didn't.
Yeah, we did stupid stuff that wasn't recorded.
Exactly.
But I mean, the officer loved it. His job made it so easy because he'd tell me, he's like, you know what? He goes, I watch these guys. They film themselves catch a bluegill, put it on the hook, knowing it's against the law, throw it out there, catch a 10-pound or catch a big bass at the parks, And they're holding it up, going, "Yeah, check it out. Check out my Insta." And sure enough, that officer, I just have to go down and look for him. "Hey, man, come here. Yeah,
Brilliant.
Let's have a talk." I mean, that was his goal. His morning search every day was, the park name and see what popped up on the YouTube page. So,
Well,
I mean,
I got to tell you,
we weren't that stupid. We were
put a-
stupid, but we weren't stupid enough to film it.
well, yeah. I mean, we didn't have the cameras and things like that back.
I don't think we would have done it anyways, though.
No, probably not.
Because we still don't want to blow up our spots.
Well, I was close to a lot of the fishing game guys, and that's what
Well, that's
we were
the
able
best
to
thing.
fish.
That's
I was
the
able to
best
fish
thing.
Matthews with them and
Oh, you
Diamond
lucky.
Valley and stuff like that, right?
Lucky. Matthews is
And,
like, I still want to fish that place.
You know, it was weird because the bass were very healthy. They weren't big. They were kind of stunning.
No, they're
a
like
lot,
that 4-pound.
but
They're
they were beautiful
fat.
fish. The stripers look like barracuda.
They have
And you
stripers
know
in there.
why? Oh yeah, a ton of them. Because the stripers were on the fin fish. Guess what the bass were eating?
Crawdads.
Totally different look. The
That's
bass looked normal, but
that's like this.
stripers-
They're little like off the like Santa Ana River lakes. I used to fish in there.
Yeah.
Their catfish lake. A lot of those bass in there are short, fat, northern, mean. They're 18 inches long, but they're 5 pounds, and they're footballs.
Oh yeah.
And they're
yeah,
just mean. Or you catch a river bass that's just, they live in current all the time, and they're
They're
just
a lot stronger.
they're shouldered.
Yeah.
They're not long and skinny like a lot
Exactly.
of they're just
Exactly.
fat, compact little monsters. But
Oh, my
all right, what's the next
so
question?
All right, boys. People are really enjoying the show tonight. I know at some point, Will, you got to get out of here.
Yeah, I gotta go to work
He
again.
runs the El Patron. Everybody,
Oh,
we're gonna
yeah.
let him give it a plug. But Brian Pearson says you guys are mentioning Butch. Is that my buddy Butch Brown who showed me so much about how to catch big bass on glide baits? Is that Butch Brown?
Yeah.
But there's nobody better. He is the GOAT. I consider him the GOAT.
Yep.
I mean, nobody goes to the extent.
He's the only one that's licensed to tune those depths.
Oh, and you know what? There's good reason for that. I mean, he was making all that stuff by hand, and I think I told the story before, but Butch and I one time we said, "Hey man, let's team up and we'll do the
The night tournament.
night tournaments." yeah. So we did one at Casitas and Gasek. We figured out.
You're not very
we
good.
don't know squat. We do not know squat. When that sun goes down.
Yeah, that was
we
like
would
the
just
story I
laugh
told
about
you
it.
about the
Oh yeah, we would just
about
laugh
my
it.
the guys who used to work for. We were going to do a 2-man team tournament, like on a private lake, out in Riverside, and they went out fishing the night before and they caught a bunch of fish, and we went out the next day and we had a nice limit of fish and they had 2, and we're like, "How did you not catch a limit?" They're like, "Well, we caught them last night." I'm like, "Dude, nighttime fish don't eat in the daytime. Those are 2 different fish." That's why you don't catch nighttime fish at the park.
my God.
Nighttime fish in the parks are nighttime fish. You don't
Yeah.
catch them in the daytime because
Yeah.
they're 2 different fish.
That is so funny.
All right, what else you got, Phil?
All right, James Williams. James, welcome to the show. He said he learned sonar from a Lowrance rep. We fish giant bass with crawdads in deep water. I've implemented that technique into rock fishing, and it keeps us on the fish. We love those bottom grabbers.
There you
That
go.
makes
Oh,
sense.
yeah, there you go.
Kind of like applying one.
Sure,
type
it's
of fish
structure.
like you talked about in Alaska,
That's structure.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. PNS Harnjack from Montana. Here's a question. Other than a nice cash tip, is there anything that a captain and deckhands like to receive from customers? Keep this clean, boys.
You know what? T-shirts, a hat, anything, just a little something. I had guys that knew I was from Long Beach. They asked me if I was like an Angels fan or something, and they'd bring me like a Mike Trout, Angels T-shirt. Had guys that would bring me. I had a guy that gave me a rod. He gave me a Phoenix rod because he didn't want to use it anymore. He didn't like it. There's all kinds of things. They just it's little things they give you. We had one guy that used to bring out the old silver quarters and silver dollars, actual silver dollars, and give them to the crew. Like,
Wow.
"Hey man, I found some of these. Here you go."
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
it's awesome. Guy named you might know him, Soda Pop. He fished on a lot of long range boats. He actually had gift cards made, like a raffle card, like on a raffle for the crew, and it had the picture of the boat, and for like $100 gift card, that had the picture of the boat on it for. So I mean, there's a
That's
lot of
awesome.
things
Yeah,
other than
yeah.
cash tip. It's
Yeah.
little monetary. It's not monetary, but sentimental things that people give that you never even realize. "Hey man, here, this is yours."
For us, growing up back in those days, it was the food. These guys would
something
bring-
other than a hamburger.
Oh yeah, there's there's
they would
another one.
bring all
Guys
the
would bring
food,
like
you know?
bring out
Food
jerky, bring out chips.
yeah.
You know, oh, you like wheat thins? Oh, you like Cheez-Its? And then it's like they bring us all these snacks
Right.
to eat, and we're like, oh god.
Anything other than
And
boat
okay,
food.
so in the long range boats, the guys bring a lot of these. They bring cases of Monsters, Red Bulls, stuff like that, because they know the crew drinks them. You know, half the time we're just exhausted.
Well, you want them with their eyes open.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
they want
why
us
you
with our
bring-
eyes
yeah,
open.
you know.
So there's little things that you can do. You just find out what the crew likes. One guy brought me Diet Dr. Pepper because he knew I like to drink Diet Dr. Pepper.
Oh, that's my drink.
There you go.
That's my drink. That is my drink. You hit it.
All right. Isaac says he's glad he found a fellow Lake Matthews friend.
Two of them. Although I've never got the opportunity or snuck
Oh, it's
across.
unbelievable. Yeah.
David Alcantar lives right near Lake Matthews. Itching to throw a line in there every time he drives by, man.
It looks good.
You know, Lake Matthews. Let me go on that one. Detour a little bit on that, Phil. You know, I was blessed to fish it with Fish and Game, right? But you know, before that trip, we had a notable captain around here. You remember heard of Herb Curley? He was famous. Herb was one of the old skippers. You know, did everything by the Space Needle. You know, in ports of call. But he was great captain. Then worked at Yankovich Field Dock. But he was one of the best bass fishermen ever. He was so good. He used to fish for the fresh largemouth bass for the Chinese market.
The one you were telling me about
Yeah,
selling
so
stuff.
anyway, yeah. So he says, "Oh yeah, we're going to. I went to Matthews." So like Taka always wanted to. go
Maybe
and fish
that's where
with
Joe.
my-
Maybe that's where Joe Arby learned how to get across.
Probably.
With the Army surplus
I
blanket
get-
across the road,
yeah.
because Joe's like, they don't look for you, they look for footprints in
Yeah.
the road.
And they had to wear gaiters because of the rattlesnakes. So the minute Herb told Taka about the rattlesnakes, he goes,
I'm out.
Nope.
I'm out. Nope.
He says, "Hey, I went out and you feel this thump on your leg," and he goes, nope, not happening."
All right, we have
Yeah,
a moral
crazy.
dilemma question. This is a good question. Omar says, what actions, if any, would you take if you encountered a humble family, a poor family, let's say, right? Collecting small lobsters out of season from a local pier. Would you report this activity to the Fish and Wildlife authorities?
I would call cow tip.
Yeah,
I'd tell him, hey man,
you want to put them back. That's
you
your
you want to
future.
put, you can't
That's
do
your
that. I mean,
future,
I
yeah,
understand, but
yeah.
you're fishing for food. At that point, moral dilemma, if they're hungry,
Buy them a...
buy them some groceries.
There you go.
It's cheaper
Exactly.
than the ticket they're going to get, plus all the fines for each individual
Explain to
lobster.
them how much it's going to cost them.
Oh,
right?
so-
If they get nailed.
It'd be
But
ridiculous.
nowadays, nowadays, honestly, the easiest thing to do is call cow tip, because you don't know what kind of person you're dealing with anymore, because
they could be strapped.
Yeah.
You don't know. Yeah.
So it's not worth it anymore. It's probably easier just to call cow tip and report it.
Yeah, all right.
And let it go.
Sometimes you can tell, though, if it's just...
Yeah, but I mean, if it depends on
Yeah.
the people. I mean,
Yeah,
if
right.
they're
You got to gauge it.
Oh, I got to tell you, this one ties into this.
Yeah.
So we had a crawdad spot, because we used to cure our own bait and catch our own bait. And we would use our chovy crowders on this one stream. Well, it was the stream that came out of Lake Elsinore. You get off at Nichols Road. And we would go there and talk, and Freddie and I would go, two guys with the crowder, one guy with the scoop, and put them up on the bank, and we'd sort through it. The big ones we'd throw back so they could respawn.
you want the little brown shell
Throw
ones.
the little ones back, small ones back, and keep just the stuff that was pure, perfect bait size.
3 to 4 inch crawdad.
No, even smaller.
Oh, really?
Smaller, yeah. Yeah, 2.5s, 3s, for the most part. And, because we're fishing a lot of light line, 8 and 10 pound for those fish. And so, we'd always, they'd repropagate, so there was always more than enough. And it started getting tougher and tougher, and then one time we went, and this is when the boat people were coming over from Vietnam, and we would catch fish, throw the fish back too. They were keeping everything. So, you could hurt it really bad if you don't.
It's like the
You don't realize that. You don't.
the ones that were
You
gill
take the
netting.
breeding spot. Yeah, you're
They were
taking the
gill
small
netting
ones,
Cerritos Park.
Oh,
They got
jeez.
caught gill netting Cerritos Park a long time ago.
There's,
Just
there's things that bother me when I think
Yeah.
of stuff like that.
Blatant-
You do have
blatant-
to abide by our rules. You are living here, so But yeah, we experienced all that.
oh yeah.
Chris Pro, my son and I have experienced 2 horrible trips. What boats do you recommend for 3/4 or full day? No more overnights for us. My son doesn't even want to go anymore. Sorry, that you had those negative experiences. Travis said,
Was the fishing just slow?
Yeah, I don't know. If
I mean, that's a hard one to go by.
Fishing, yeah.
yeah,
fishing.
what was the problem, Chris? I mean, if fishing was slow, that.
I mean, if the boat was dirty or boat wasn't kept up, or the
People were
crew rude, or you know, then yeah, you probably want to go do something else.
How about that El Patron?
Come fishing with me.
I mean, Chris, you just got to see Will right here. Doesn't he approach you as a really nice guy? I mean, he's the kind of guy you want to go fishing with for sure. So, yeah, we'd have to know a little bit about the circumstances. Don't mention the boat's name, just because we don't want to do that. But if you want to mention some circumstances, great. David Alcantara says fishing game watches social media like a hawk.
Oh, yeah.
My buddy was approached by them for questionable activities he posted on Instagram.
Duh.
I mean, that goes along with what every good lawyer tells you. Don't put it in writing.
Don't.
And now, in this day and age, don't do a video either.
Sure.
Yeah, don't put it on social media.
Hey, here's the evidence you'll need in court to convict him,
Yeah.
by
Here,
the way.
look, look, I'm an idiot. Look here.
Ken Trenholm. I started sneaking into Sweetwater when I was around 6 years old. Old man Grady would chase you out with salt rock in his shotgun. The good old days.
Oh yeah, I remember that was when I went to Oklahoma. They told me, you don't go trespassing in farm ponds. They'll shoot you with salt rocks. Luckily, that was never the case in most of the golf courses. I never got shot with salt rocks. But
That's pretty cool.
that's pretty.
Oh, God.
That is old school right there.
That is.
Travis Bright says, Chris Pro, sorry to hear you had those negative experiences. There are great overnight boats, Old Glory, Pacifica, and tons of others, Malahini, San Diego, are great full-day boats. Chris Pro, fishing was not slow. It was good. The captain was not the greatest person.
It all comes down from the top. If the captain's
That's right.
the captain's got a negative attitude or just can't control himself, it just makes everything uncomfortable.
Yeah, not much is better than word of mouth. By talking to experienced fishermen, who you fish with. There's reasons, and at your different levels too. And if I think.
Well, like you say, the Southern California industry is small.
Yeah.
A
Gets
lot
around
of,
quick.
and if you've been in the industry long enough, you got guys in the industry that are going to hate on you, and then you got a lot of guys that respect you, and the ones that are more jealous and the ones that are, envious of what you're doing are the ones that are going to voice the biggest opinion and, try to cause the biggest problems because they're just, I don't know.
And that sorts itself out because track records.
Everybody knows.
Are gonna
So it just
tell the truth in the long run. So.
All right, hit that like button, everybody. Naughty Boy 78. I got a ticket one time for using 2 rods in
can't
the
do
ocean.
that with a second rod stamp.
It was over $700. I always tell people it's just not worth the risk.
Read the regulations.
Fishing game binoculars are really good.
Yep.
He says.
Yep.
Kim Herbert says. Where are the skipjacks? I don't know. Where are they?
I don't know.
Who cares? Well, I mean, well,
Where are the bonita?
True.
Purple haze, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Chris Pro is back again to say the weather was horrible. That's out
That's
of the
Mother
that's
Nature.
kinda- that's Mother Nature. You can't control fish and you can't control the weather. Sometimes you get dealt bad hands with both.
But Chris, let me tell you something. My trip in June, we canceled our 8-day because the weather was bad, and there's a good reason for that. There's no way we'd have to bucket 2 days generally to get down to Lejos and 2 days back. But with the weather, that would have consumed most of that 8-day trip. And you get.
Was that on what boat was that
That
on?
was on the angler. And
Yeah,
all the
those-
small boats are kept in, and we changed it to a 5-day. And we ended up with 5 days of straight fishing. And I got to tell you, there's a good reason for it because even that first night we were on fish, pinned on 100-pound, and it's the first time I've ever seen one come over the top of the rail through the scuppers. And I looked up to the bow, and here's this wave coming down
Oh, that's
all the way
that's like
down,
the XL
about
when
a
you-
foot and a half. And I go, whoa! And my boots, I had to put them in the engine room that night. But the fishing was great,
I've
and then it
seen
laid
that.
down after that. But
Yeah,
it
I've
was
seen the XL dip the scup, the rail over the side. And
yeah.
I've slid across the top of the bait tank, laying across the tank to try to keep my boots dry or hop up. You're scattering like roaches to keep your boots dry. One quick freshwater question to you, and your opinion. So,
Sure.
my thoughts on the southern, back to the big fish.
Yeah.
My thoughts is I think we have the stripers have taken over to the point where they're out competing the bigger bass. The bass can only get to a certain size due to the striper populations in a lot of lakes.
Not a striper population like, well, there's none
Like at Diamond Valley.
Okay, yeah, Diamond Valley.
Diamond Valley,
Castaic
it
was
should
like
have
that, too.
it should have a big. They should have big fish,
Yeah.
but they got a lot of that 8 to 12, 13 pound fish. But it's trying to get that bigger fish.
It's probably you got 25-pound stripers,
If not bigger.
or if not bigger. Right.
And now they got
I'd
flatheads.
say
in
that
there.
was a problem in Castaic too. Some of the early ones that were caught that came down from Silverwood, right? The guy saw.
Does Castaic go into Silverwood or Silver go into
Yeah,
Castaic?
well, the water goes down from Silverwood into Castaic and then gets pumped back up.
I
for
thought it came
electricity,
from
too.
Pyramid through there and
No,
stuff
it
like
goes
that.
back up too. Yeah.
I know it goes from Pyramid. Okay, so not Silver. Silverwood or Pyramid?
No, Silverwood. Oh, excuse me. You're
It is
right.
Pyramid. Pyramid it gets.
Silverwood's
That's how.
out San
Yeah.
Bernardino one.
Yeah, San Bernardino.
it's
That
Pyramid.
Silverwood goes into
Yeah.
Paris, which goes
Right.
into Diamond Valley, which goes into Skinner.
But both have stripers.
Yes, from the
So
California
inevitably-
Aqueduct.
Yeah.
From the
Yeah.
the Delta.
Yeah. That's why
So-
Casitas was always clean. Cachuma was clean,
I'm going to Margarita next weekend, and talk about a lake where they want that thing pristine. They straight out told us if we put our boats at Pyramid or Castaic, don't even think about coming up there because of the mussels. And they said there's mussels up there. You're not putting your boat in the lake. It's not going to happen. We'll cancel you guys out.
Let me tell you how, and I'm going to get a little political here because I'm ticked off. We were on the advisory board with Fish and Game, and when the quagga mussels first came in, we had told them with a number of people in the industry, what they really ought to do is build ramps where you can drive your boat and trailer in there, pour a solution that kills off everything, run your pumps.
Clear Lake.
Okay?
Clear Lake makes you use vinegar,
This
which is non-harmful to the fish. Kills the coagula and the zebra mussel.
Acetic
There's a tip
acid.
for you guys there. If you want to
Acetic
kill
acid.
anything in your bilge after you go to a lake that's infested, white vinegar. White vinegar.
Perfect.
They tell you to pour it through your live wells when you're done. And it was funny. I went up there and fished a few years ago, and the lady's like, "Well," she opened my live well and it smelled like vinegar. She goes, "Why does it smell?" I said, "I got it in the back of the boat." She goes, "Well, why do you have?" I said, "Because I came up here a few years ago, and the guy told me to make sure my boat was clean with vinegar before I did anything. I went to the Delta. We fished yesterday. Made sure I poured vinegar through
Good
it, cleaned
point.
everything."
That's
She goes,
awesome.
"Awesome."
Yeah.
She goes, "Most people don't do that, but
Yeah.
I wipe my boat down with a vinegar water solution or straight vinegar to kill everything on there, and it's
That's a great point. See, I mean, if that had been implemented back then,
just an
we wouldn't have had that problem.
easy something to do, and it's $3 a gallon opposed to
Yeah.
the boat cleaners $25 a gallon. It's basically vinegar based.
Or buying
chemicals.
4 boats and putting them like Butch, putting them at different
We
lakes. 'cause you
can't
couldn't fish.
look. Butch likes 4 boats. Don't hate on Butch for 4 boats. If I had 4 boats, I'd put them at different
that's
lakes
why
too.
he's the GOAT, because he's
You know how
that
much money
serious.
he's saving not trailering those 4 boats?
He knows that, I'm sure. But he's that great a fisherman. That's what it is.
Good
not
stuff.
Yep.
Hey, P&S Harnjack from Montana. They fish down here a lot. Can you give us a little rundown on the El Patron size, average trip?
There you go.
Come on, promote the boat.
It's a 50-foot delta. It holds. We sleep 10 people overnight. What do you want to know? It's not a bad boat for 10 guys. It's comfortable. It's really comfortable.
Bait capacity,
Bait capacity is
refrigeration
about
system.
40 scoops on bait. We do have an RSW.
There you go, guys.
Working on it, trying to keep it, improving it as we go through the years or through the season. It's little tweaks that you got to make to things.
Absolutely.
It's like that on every boat. You got to make little tweaks, but it's a new boat, a new business. Trying to get it going, and it's going good. We run pretty much almost every weekend. So, and then sometimes during the week, which, like you say, I got to get out of here in like 5-10 minutes. So I got to go run a trip.
Let me read a couple more for you really quick here. Halibut man, for 2 rods in the ocean, only thing I can think of is on a boat bottom fishing, you can't do that. Omar, I think Omar is on our trip with you September 15th, right, Omar? And he says, what's the El Patron catching these days? Do I need to bring a 100-pound outfit?
Is it an overnight trip or is it a...
Well,
Is it
so
a
the
day
trip
and a
we're
half?
doing is a 6 to 6 with September 15th.
I highly doubt we're going to need over a 100-pound setup. I would suggest bring an island fishing tackle, everything from 15 to 40 pound. And, you don't need to bring knife jigs. You don't need to bring 100-pound. It's not, I don't see that happening on a 5 to 5. You're not going to get out there and chase those big fish on a 5 to or 6 to 6 trip. You don't have the time to get to the zones where they're at. And even if we did, it's such a small small window fish to, you got 18 guys, I think, on that trip. 18 guys trying to fish big fish like that. Odds are it's going to be a kite bite in the daytime, which makes it really hard on an 18-foot boat when you can fish 1 or 2 people on a kite and everybody else gets to watch. Not the best. It's awesome to catch those fish, don't get me wrong, but it's not the best for the group. The best for the group is where everybody can have a good time. We can catch some fish. Everybody brings something home. Even if the local kelps did start biting and we caught Dorado and some yellowtail, you don't need 100-pound. It's not needed. If you want to bring one to troll to Catalina, by all means bring it. I'm not going to tell you no, but I wouldn't say you have to have it.
All right, good stuff. James Williams says stripers at Diamond Valley bass just can't compete with them. Ken Trenholm, get on the horizon with Ricky and crew. We had a great trip. Omar says he's heading to Sequoia and Three Rivers soon. I was wondering if Danny had a minimal fishing outfit recommendations for the rivers and lakes in that area, and you too, for that matter.
Was he trout fishing?
Let's say trout.
I go
You
get
just need
something.
a 4-pound.
4-pound rod.
Yeah.
Something
yeah.
ultralight. It doesn't even have to be that fancy of a rod. I mean,
Yeah, and the bigger water, you can go longer rod too. I mean, for small streams, you can shorten it up. But I mean,
5.5, 6 foot
fishing
rod.
rivers and stuff,
I'd
if
say a
you're fishing
5.5 foot rod on a stream.
Yeah, yeah.
Mike Trunk says, great show, boys. P&S Harnjack from Montana again. Speaking of mussels and cleaning boats, do they have boat check stations in California?
Yes.
Like, do you have to go through check stations in between lakes?
To launch a lot of lakes, your boat has to, like we were talking about, has to have 0 water. So if it rained the night before, I've got rejected off a lake because they were already dinging me because I went through a puddle at the beginning. Right where the gate was, there was a puddle. And I drove my boat through it, because I had to enter the gate. And the guy goes, your trailer's wet. I said, where? And he pointed out, and I took a towel and I wiped it off. He goes, you can't do that. I said, you got a puddle right there. I said, what do you mean I can't do that? I said, it's already going to be wet. Got a puddle right there. Where do you want me to go? I said, my boat's dry other than that. And I opened up my live wells. My live wells were dry. And he stuck his finger, and I got revenge on him later on, but he stuck his finger into my up back in the drain plug, and he felt something that was all cool and damp. He goes, you got grass in your bilge. I'm like, what? He goes, you got grass in your bilge. I'm like, I don't have any grass in my bilge. And I pulled my fuel, my oil reservoir out, and I had an Ica. I had an Ica sitting in the bilge that was cold, that had been in there for a while, and that's what he dinged me on, was that, and for sticking his finger in there. So if the next time, because I had an O-ring, on there, so I took that heavy-duty purple, that red grease that you grease bearings with that doesn't come off with nothing, and I greased that O-ring. And around that thing, that guy stuck his finger in there. Oh yeah, dude, you might want to watch that. There's some fresh grease in there for my O-ring. You probably not. That was the next trip. So
I love it. I love it.
Kick me out for an Ica, you're gonna get a finger full of red grease that doesn't want to come off.
Cryptocurrency wants to know, can you kite fish with drones?
I don't know.
That's a good question, right?
That wouldn't be kite fishing then.
No, that's true. It'd be drone.
But I've seen people fish with a drone. You just have to be able to drop it.
I've seen them.
So yes, you probably could. Just don't hit the home button if the boat's moving, because if you hit the home button with the boat moving, it's going to go wherever the boat was. I've seen that happen. And away it went, and it went off into the water, and we saw it go bloop, on his phone. Ouch. It went away.
P&S Harnjack in Montana, we have boat check stations on every highway and in between lakes. It's state law. You have to stop and have your boat inspected.
I think the only actual where you have to stop and get your boat inspected in California is coming back from Havasu. Is it the
river? Huh?
Yeah, the river. They want to make sure you're not bringing any kind of your anchor line can't be wet if you have an anchor. Your live wells have to be drained. Your boat plug has to be pulled, and they check and they just let you go on your way. But you can't be transporting any kind of water or anything like that. They don't want to have any kind of. But going to Arizona, it says welcome. Coming back to California, nope, stop.
It's California. We chase more business out of here than anybody.
One more question. You want to get out of here?
Whatever.
One more.
Yeah.
Can you
That's
keep
fine.
going?
Yeah, get one
it's
more.
It's up to you. Omar says Big Bear checks your boats as well. Omar says, do you think Fish and Wildlife's 130-page saltwater regulations represent appropriate conservation management or excessive overregulation?
I think it was over-regulated by a bunch of bureaucrats to try to appease everybody. It's not some of the actions. Being a bass fisherman, one of the actions they wanted to put into place is the California Delta to want to eradicate everything that's non-native. And that includes largemouth bass, crappie, striped bass, smallmouth bass, spotted bass, bluegill, channel catfish, everything that lives in the Sacramento River that was stocked in there by the Fish and Game for pleasure fishing, they now want to try to eradicate. And there's not a chance that's ever going to work because it's too big a system. And you can't eradicate striped bass because they're out in the ocean and they come back in to spawn. So you're going to destroy an entire system because because of bureaucrats. And you know, they wanted to, like you say, they wanted to manage it. They told everybody, oh, we're going to work with the public to manage things. And they gave everybody the meeting, and whatever they thought about doing, they just blew it up and said, oh, we're going to do this instead.
Yeah, Village Idiots.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
run by Village Idiots. And I mean, you start thinking about how they have live snakeheads in Chinese
yes.
fish markets and stuff like that. Where do you think they end up?
And the lake,
where do you think
Launder
they're
Park.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. They got two standards, and they're
You get the Buddhist people that don't want to see fish killed.
Yeah.
They buy them from the Chinese market and they release them into waters.
Oh yeah.
Because that's their culture. Nothing. They don't want anything to die, or the Hindu, whatever it is, whatever culture they have. They just they want things to be free. Yeah. So it's hard to say all this stuff. You know, it's like when they closed the rockfish back in 2000 over because we started regulating ourselves out of deep water into shallow water fisheries with the invention of spectra and shallow water rock fishing with jacks, jigs, and all that stuff. We stopped fishing bocaccio. We stopped fishing cowcods. We started targeting reds and starries and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, because the fish counts fell off, oh, they're endangered. No, we stopped fishing for them. And the one that killed me was the endangered bocaccio. The ever endangered bocaccio. God, there's so many endangered.
Oh, unbelievable.
There was clouds of them. We drove away from them. We didn't want them, but they didn't want to hear any of that stuff. They had their mindset, and if you can't do it our way, then we're going to blow the whole system out of the water. So you either suck it up, or you get nothing. So it's like you're kind of in that.
Well, here's something that'll just blow you away. I mean, my brother and the Outer Limits, you know, when Ken Frankie was very involved with, you know, Fish and Game and everything, you know, they had the contracts for doing the cowcod stuff, right? So in the early days, you couldn't revive those fish. Well, now they have decompression chambers, right, where they decompress the cows, tag them, and send them back down. Okay, so you and I fish. You catch a fish on the 43, where do you think that thing would be? And when you put it back down on the 43, where do you think it'd be a week later?
Not on the 43. Probably not on the 43.
Yeah, where do you think it would be?
Probably.
How far do you think it would go? I think maybe the eastern of Catalina, the outside maybe the 60 or something. You know,
I don't think it'd go that far. Maybe down the ridge or over to Desperation if it had a edge to swim. I mean, it's got to follow the bottom contour. So you're thinking somewhere along the shelf there where it can't run too far.
That's kind of where I thought too. You know where
were we wrong?
Up? You know what ended up
No.
a week later? Outside Conception. So here's my point. If we don't know that as fishermen, because I thought the same thing, okay, how in the world could these morons in Fish and Game and these guys make legislation on it when it's up against Conception? You know nothing.
Don't tell those people that now because they're.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say morons? Okay,
Yeah.
idiots. Sorry. Excuse me.
Now
But
the
anyway,
show's getting good.
Yeah. I'm just speaking the truth. I'm not speaking with the forked tongue, folks.
This is
what we've dealt with as
we've
fishermen
yes.
over the years. The politics of it. If they would have implemented our knowledge, and you know,
Well, it's like
over what we saw over
talking
the
to
years.
Wiggy on the Amigo back in the day.
Wiki was one
And
of
he took those guys out fishing. They would sample 100 fathoms off the east end of Catalina, and they're like, "We're going to try stuff right here." And Wiggy's like, "Why are you fishing right here? This is mud." He goes, "Well, we want to see if there's any rockfish here." He goes, "But there's no rockfish here. They live on rocks. They live on hard bottom. This is going to be straight sand dabs. Well, we want to see." Well, what do you want to see? The sand dabs? There's no.
He's got more time and knows what.
He's like, well,
Oh,
this is not where you want to fish. There's nothing here. We don't fish here. Well, we want to see. I go, really? Or they launched their
Oh my God.
they're giant submarine. They go down there in their little self-contained sub or whatever, and all the big fish hide. All the big fish are hiding. Well, yeah, that's why they're big. All we see is small fish. Well, yeah, because the big ones hide from what looks like a predator. They don't swim around out in the open.
This is what we do with folks.
It's just common sense gone common. You know, book smart opposed to street smart.
Yeah.
So it's good
I voiced
stuff.
that many times with on air here when Russ Eisen would call me and say, "Hey, we got to go up to Santa Barbara for a hearing on this." I go, "What's it about?" "Well, it's about depletion of sand bass in the Channel Islands." I said, "Well, what time of year was it done?" He goes, well, "You know," and of course the rest knows the answer too. It says, "Oh, yeah, no, it was in the fall." I said, "Yeah, well, they're back.
They go
way
back
down
south.
to Mexico. We had a spot."
Go
"Oh,
back south.
they do? Oh, you know." But that was fishing game.
Yeah, well,
And
we know
we
that.
fish. You know.
Now I
There's a
know.
difference.
I know a lot of the commercial fishing has hurt the sand bass because the bluefin fishing,
When they chunked them,
when they chunk them all up into little pellets, that destroys the sand bass coming up the line. They catch everything, which that's why we haven't had the good sand bass. But you get below like canoas and whatnot, it's 4 and 5 pound sand bass all you want. You know, it's good fishing. It's like fucking sand bass.
you know what happened to some of those first loads of fish that were fed sand bass? It was all rejected by Japan. Well, come on. They're used to normally eating oily fish like a sardine or a joey.
Yeah,
or
it's all
something,
white
right?
flaky fish,
No,
not
when
fat,
you give-
not
you
enough
give
fat
'em a-
content.
Yeah, you give them a chunk of turd roller, what are you going to get?
You're gonna get
You're going to get a tuna that tastes like a turd roller. Sorry. Excuse my French, folks.
That's what
I'm
they were
just in one of
called,
those
but-
modes.
That's what they were called back in the day, was
Yeah,
turd rollers, but
yeah,
that's not what they taste like. That they're really good to eat.
No, it supported a lot of the
Yep.
half-day industry for years and years.
I made a summer and a long range trip on catching barracuda and sand bass twilight fishing
That's
with
it.
Myron back in the day on the Southern Cow.
Oh my God, Myron! Yeah, you ran the
So,
Mustang.
What else you got, Phil?
Omar
I can sta-
says, "Speak the truth, Danny. Love it. Cryptocurrency joke. What did the boy tuna say to the female tuna? Let's hook up." That's good. I like corny stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. Wild Willie says the conservation management is just managing people, is what it's doing. It's not managing the fish.
Well, you know, on that topic, so being a captain, seeing the change from anchovies to sardines, and when you bring anchovies and fish sardines, and I try to take both, and I've been on bites where like they start out, you're chumming the anchovies, and they're on fire. They're all those 15 to 25 pound tuna or whatever,
Yeah.
and they're just gun ho for that sardine. And all of a sudden they stop eating the sardine. And it's like, guys, drop down, throw an anchovy. And they're like, but I can't cast an anchovy. And they're like, well, why would you bring anchovies? And I always ask people, I'm like, so when you go to the movies, this would be my analogy to them. I'm like, so when you go to the movies, I'm like, how many hot dogs can you eat? They're like, well, 1 or 2. I said, but how many pieces of popcorn can you have? He goes, well, I can eat a whole bucket of popcorn. I said, exactly. I said, those sardines, those are hot dogs. Those anchovies, those are pieces of popcorn. He goes, I never thought about it like that. I'm like, they will figure out a way to eat an anchovy.
Yeah.
Well, they won't pick off a sardine because there's no space for them, but they will glutton themselves out to eat every anchovy they can get. Don't ask me why,
yeah.
but they just do.
They'll eat them and then gorge them out and then refill. Yeah, that's amazing.
Brian Pearson says, if you want to see a management problem that's top of the top shelf, headquarters in Florida is an awesome place to fish, and the wildlife and fisheries there are cool. PNS Harnjack. Speaking of regulations and such, what happened with the carb thing last year? Weber, they trying to shut down the diesel engine. Remember, they wanted you to go to T4 engines, I think.
I think they're trying to still. I think
Yeah.
they want engines. They want all the sport boats to go to engines. They're not even available. So how can you implement a regulation on something that you can't even get?
See, that makes perfect sense for those guys.
You know, it's like our powered cars. We want to be all electric, yet we can't run our air conditioner and our dryer at the same time at 4 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
what if
there's
you
no-
want to go so many miles?
Yeah, and then you got to
You
charge
got a
them.
long extension cord?
I'm gonna invest in a generator and put it on the back of a flatbed, and it's gonna be a Tesla roadside assistance
you
vehicle,
go.
and charge those people to quick charge their cars because they're gonna run out of
What a
power.
great idea.
There you go.
You know, there's guys that are doing it. And you know how hard it is to push a Tesla off the road?
Oh, yeah.
They're heavy. They're not light.
Yeah.
They're a compact car, but they ain't compact.
That's a good point.
All right,
I mean-
cue ball says great shot. Dun, on the joke with the Let's Hook Up. Pretty good on pizza, too, talking about anchovies. Omar, Cali is the most beautiful mess in the U.S.
They are the perfect
Alejandro
mess.
Cotto. Alex Jones is right. I don't know what Alex Jones is right about, but not sure about that. Hey, there's a break in the questions. You want to hang out a little longer?
I probably got to get out of here. Danny, it was good
Hey,
talking
man,
to you.
thank you. Good talking
Have a
to
good
you,
talking.
man.
Phil,
Will, great
always
say.
good to see
hey,
you.
Before you do run off, one more time on the El Patron, please.
Yeah.
What do you want to know?
Just where to call, what you guys are doing.
22nd Street Landing. We're trying to keep him overnight, day and a half. We also do full days. If you want to get a charter, also can do small trips. You guys love taking guys half-day fishing, have a good time. I've had a handful of guys that book on I'm not even sure what site it is, but 9, 10 guys half-day fish, a little group out of town. Good little boat, have some fun. We got a galley. Just you want to come fishing. It's a brand new operation. If you want to check it out. Be your own critic. Try it out. If you don't like it, I do my best, but let me earn your business. That's the best thing I can say is let me earn your guys' business and repeat. So I can't control the fish and I can't control the weather, but I can control how the boat runs and everything else. So other than that, call 22nd Street Landing. Phil knows the phone number because I don't.
310-832.
Awesome.
8304.
Or check out elpatronsportfishing.com, I believe is the website. Go from there. Danny, we'll have to talk bass fishing another time, just straight bass fishing.
No,
but
give me some
it's fun to go off the
inside
topic
stuff.
and run all over the place.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, a lot of that history comes out of our sport fishing side.
I'm telling you, you're like a
elevated-
legend. It's like meeting a legend.
Elevated the game.
It's like when I'm going to ramble for like another 5 minutes. It's like so on some of the chart when I worked on the long range boats, they knew I loved bass fishing. And they asked me, they're like, so you think you could fish against that one guy, that black guy that fishes long range? I said, who, Ish? They're like, yeah. I said, Ish Monroe? They're like, yeah. I said, I can fish against Ish. I said, I'm just fishing. I'm not fishing against him. I said, I'm fishing against the fish we're both trying to catch. I said, I said, it's a mental game. I said, it's not me beating him. It's me making the right choices and catching the fish that I need. I said, but he's one of those guys that has nicest can be. You meet him in person and
I know. Yeah.
oh, he's a lot of those guys are awesome. I mean, like I told you, I think I met Brent Ayler sitting in a Angler's Marine, and sitting there, I was going to pick my boat up, and he's in the employee Christmas party, and he's got his little kid. I think his kid was like 5 years old at the time, and he's playing Legos with his kid on the floor in Angler's Marine. I'm like, life of a bass pro, huh? Hanging out in the boat dealership, playing Legos. He's like living the dream. I'm like, I mean, you can't hate on somebody like that. And they're just such normal people that fish for a living, and most of them are the most humble, easygoing.
Absolutely.
They're not nasty. And if they get heated. We all get heated when we're competitive. That's just in the nature. I mean, we want to be. When I'm fishing in a tournament, I don't even the club tournament, even our little bass club tournament. Yeah. I'm fishing against those guys. I want to win. I'm not giving out any secrets. I'm not trying to play fair. I'm not trying to go easy. I'm fishing full speed as if I was fishing, even though I'm not fishing for a whole lot, as if I'm fishing for $100,000 because I want to win. And it's
that's how we grew up. That's why we're doing what we do.
That's what we do. What we do, and it's a drive. And if you don't have that drive, and I think I'm getting back into running the boat on the El Patron. That drive's coming back to fishing offshore, being wanting to find those fish, spending the hours up. You learn to appreciate the easy days where you go out there and everything falls into place. And, everything works out great. And then you get those days where you're just in a mental grind, go, 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 and you don't want to stop, and you just keep grinding, and your crew looks at you like, why are we still doing this?
But those are the days you learn things.
Yes, and sometimes you zig when you should have zagged. Like, I mean, it is what it is, but it's tough, and you can't. Sometimes you try an area, you do something, and you look, and it doesn't work out, but you didn't know it was there, but you got to look. And that's part of it. But that's the hard part about up here is you don't have the network like you do in San Diego. San Diego's at the network. Everybody knows where everybody's going. Everything's going.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's a bigger network. Up here, you're kind of you got one hand.
Right.
You don't have
Right.
3 hands of information coming
Right.
at you. You got one hand and a small group. And if nobody's out there with you, you're kind of strapped on your own. You're like, where are we going? What are we doing?
It's always good to have the dope from everybody else.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it's and even though you get the dope the day before you get down there, and sometimes you like, what the heck happened?
But you know, it's that collective information. I mean, I got it all over from guys. You remember who Doug Hannon, the bass professor?
Yeah.
Doug Hannon? Okay, Doug taught me about camouflage in the line. And I did this even when I was still running boats. You know, I went into the pool, I looked at my line, and I could see the light transfer down the line. I put the
So now
gradients
do you think
of
that's
green.
do you think that happens with fluorocarbon now?
See, I don't know. I don't know because.
So you
with
did that with
fluorocarbon-
mono?
I
You-
did that
you
with
marked
mono.
mono, huh?
Because, yeah, there was no fluoro.
See, I do that with braid.
Yeah.
I mark my
I do
my
that
braid
too.
when I flip. I scratch every like 16 inches
I do
with a
that
black marker just to kind of break up
Break
the
it up
outline of
so
it,
you don't have a
so it's
solid
not a
thing,
solid
yeah.
line
Yeah.
anymore.
But see, I mean, the transfer in the mono was like a fiber optic material, right? So you see the light. You didn't necessarily see the light, but you saw the light. When you put that green gradient, it knocked it out and you couldn't see it. And that was one of the things from Doug. But, you know, we were blessed to be around. Like, I knew the Linders, you know, and they were some of the finest people on earth. I mean,
They still are.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But,
So,
yeah,
but I should let you get back to your show and what's going
Anyway,
on.
no.
But we'll
Pleasure-
do it again.
pleasure's mine.
Phil,
Yeah.
appreciate the invite.
Hey, Will, good to see you again, man.
Get out of here.
You're becoming a mainstay here with our show, man. Thanks, man. Hey, and good luck. Catch some fish.
Get them.
I'll be talking to you in the morning.
We'll see you. You bet.
Hey, I'll talk to you in the morning, see what you're doing. Take care, Will. What'd you think? What this guy, he's awesome, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome.
Hey, we blew by some questions. We got a ton of questions
We
here.
were on here for
One guy was
35
asking,
minutes, 40 minutes.
remember the Luvar?
Yes.
The guy said, are you talking about, because we said oil fish, and he said, are you talking about an Escobar or a Luvar? Are they the same, or? I'm
I think
confused.
it's pretty much the same.
I'm screwed
I
up
asked my
now.
brother. I mean, you know, they're excellent eating, but they're very oily. You know
Right.
what I heard? You know,
Right.
So you have to take proportions, otherwise you better go to Costco and get a case of toilet paper. You know,
There's no toilet paper left because it got bought up during the hurricane.
oh, hey, well then you better use a salt out there. You need saltwater bidet. You know.
Danny, this show's going great. We're going to keep it rolling just a little bit longer.
and
You
we still
okay?
got-
Yeah, we got a ton of questions. Halibut
Bring them
man.
on, guys.
Great show, guys. Kim Herbert, anchovy practice. Use a clothespin. That was an old Frank LaPreste, I think.
Yep.
Omar says, thanks, Captain. You are a wealth of knowledge. Chico. Great show, guys. Q-Ball wants to know if the El Patron was the outrider. No, it was not. I know that.
That's good.
Travis Bright says, get Captain Tino in for a joke. Tino has some pretty funny jokes.
Oh yeah, no, we need to.
Yeah, we definitely need.
We'll do that. We got to get Tino in one day too. That'd be fun.
Danny,
Laugh our behinds off.
where do you take your boat when it gets sick? Where do you take your boat?
I used to take it to Dinko's. No, go ahead. It's a joke.
To the dock.
To the dock.
Yes, I thought you'd like that. Or maybe you don't like it. I don't
Perfect.
know. Tino told me that.
Perfect.
Halibut Man, free fishing tournament Saturday in Newport. Check out Phil's other video about Mahi-mahi in Newport Beach. That's right. If you find the live show we did about a Mahi-mahi or a Dorado taken from the docks in Newport, there's all kinds of great information about a great tournament, and it's free. It's land-based. It'd be fun for you this weekend. Halibut Man, we really appreciate you pointing that out. Cryptocurrency said another joke. I just gave you one. It was a good one, too. Wow, guys, this is awesome. And he throws us $20 again, Isaac.
My God. Thank
Man,
you.
we love you,
Awesome.
Isaac. You are the man. Get some dinner. This is awesome. Travis Wright, cryptocurrency. Fire away, LOL. Cue ball. Staying in contact with the fish is paramount and a lot of work. Cue ball says, your guest was a really cool guy. Brian Arnell, they just don't want 6-pound bluegill because I haven't seen any dams plugged up with quagga mussels on the Colorado River. Hell, they completely drained it. Q-Ball, I miss Tino. Q-Ball said the doc, man. He beat me to it, man. He was all over it. PNS Harnjack, I never saw an update. Did I miss? How was the fish eyeball eating contest? Did you ever eat any? We haven't done that yet, man, but I'm glad you reminded me of that because I kind of forgot all about that. We're going to do a fish eyeball eating
Well,
contest.
they used to on the boats for guys, if they got their first albie or tuna, they'd have them eat the heart, right?
Yeah.
And I can remember one time I could hear this yelling and screaming on the way in when they're cleaning fish. I hear yelling and screaming, and the guy that caught his first tuna ate the heart, and he comes up to the wheelhouse and he goes, "Oh, hey, Captain, when did you eat your first heart?" And I said, "Well, I never have yet."
Oh,
The look on his face.
Oh,
was
that's funny.
Give me to the head.
That's hilarious. Hey, I think we've come to the end. We're pushing 2.5 hours on this show, man.
Holy
You feel like
moly.
that? Not really,
No,
right?
No, it flew.
It's been way too much
flew.
fun.
It
Will
flew.
Hogue from the El Patron. I think you got a friend now, Danny.
Yeah.
You guys really hit it
Yeah,
off.
Yeah, awesome.
And great show, man. Thank you for
Thanks.
everything, as always.
No, that's what we're here for, just the blessing, Phil, and being around all these people over the years, we got stories to go on all these people, for instance, like with the Lindners, and we got these stories that are going to come out in time, and Phil and I talked. I got a special guest coming in December that come down. You guys going to have to stay tuned into that. You're probably going to have to wear some Pampers or something because the stories that are going to come out, you're going to wet your pants. You're from laughing, let me tell you. He's the ultimate clown, and we'll fill you in. We'll keep you posted, but stay tuned because it's going to be it'll be one of the funniest things you'll ever see.
Hey, hit that like button before you go away. Share this video with a friend. Tick the bell, and you'll be notified when there's new content. Subscribe to Friedman Adventures. We're on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. What a fabulous show. Danny, thanks again, my friend. It's always good to spend a couple of hours with you.
Keep the faith, guys. Keep fishing. We'll see you out there.